You're welcome. How are you? I didn't want to interrupt you. I was like, there's those cookies. Tell your husband to stretch them out a little bit more than one day.
He was so cute. He started to come in. It's like he's like partially trying to clean it out. Like, I got this. Just sit there. It's okay. We got this.
For some people, you need to do it.
So what is he doing most days? Most days he comes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He comes to usually it's Monday. Patty makes his lunch to where he has to open different things so they can actually do stuff. But she wouldn't have to say good. Yeah, he's an occupational therapist. She wouldn't. Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. So he would just put together, but she typically uses different containers for each part of the week. So cute. So to get to his pickle, to get to
Is that everything there? I didn't see, I just saw an all right.
And so he has lunch on Thursday. I also bring the newspaper and then he does the local newspaper. And then if he's he will do hygiene checks on Thursday. So he gets to visit with patients. It's a real nice poster for him. Oh, sure. He's such a social person. Yes. Thursdays and Fridays, Patty, they both go to the from our.
All right, you guys ready? Am I on? I'd like to call the meeting to order and declare that we have a quorum. And look for the adoption of the agenda.
Move that we excuse.
Nope.
Move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I'll call the vote. Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
You guys are out of order. Mr. Garden?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Dr. Alvin?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Sure.
Ms. Clever Jones? Yes. And I will vote yes. Moving on to 1.04, we have our secondary schools update, and I will turn it over to Dr. Stewart.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
Everyone. So today, our secondary administrators are going to present their comprehensive school improvement plan. Ritenour School District works in collaboration with parents in the community to develop leaders who are recognized for academic excellence and high levels of integrity. The mission of Ritenour School District is to ensure all students think critically, solve problems, and learn in a nurturing environment that prepares them for success in a diverse global society. We will continue to include different cultures in our curriculum and reinforce strategies that embrace the culture of all of our students. You will continue tonight to hear about how our schools are embedding trauma-informed practices that focus on building strong relationships with all students and which creates an increased understanding of other cultures. So I went over this last week and we went over the 3 goals, but I will go over it just a little bit. Our comprehensive school improvement plan focuses on 3 goals. One is academic achievement. One of our goals is to ensure all students meet their personal, academic, and career goals. And we focus on equitable access for all students. We have our instructional coaches, which support instruction in our buildings. We have our modules, we've talked about that a few times, which has helped our teachers focus in on those important priority standards. We focus on data-driven instruction and the integration of technology. I know that our Middle and high school are at a different place as it relates to technology. And our second goal, really, I'm going to continue to focus on the first goal. I'm not finished with that. We also have our wellness teams. We've talked about that a lot, how that has really supported our families and our students this year. I've talked about the prioritized standards and the reduction of instructional time this year. Our middle schools have been using Ixl, and we use Evaluate to determine what areas of opportunities our students need. Our second goal focuses on college and career readiness. We will continue to have processes in place to identify students who may struggle and design support structures for students. We have partnered with college and universities to support students taking courses at the college level. We have partnered with Washington University and other local school districts to focus on improving math outcomes for students at the middle school. Our administrators, some of our teachers, and I am also involved with that committee. Attendance has been an area of opportunity during distance learning. We will continue to work on engaging our students at high levels. Like I said last week, our teachers have professional development on how to apply engagement strategies in a distance learning environment. And our middle schools have focused in on check-in time. You'll learn a little bit more about that with our middle schools. They have a check-in time during the day to support asynchronous learning for students. So you will hear tonight common action steps with elementary and our secondary schools that involve engaging our students in distance learning during face-to-face instruction and asynchronous learning by connecting with students, giving frequent feedback, and using technology to engage them and support our teachers with the curriculum. You saw our modules last week. This is an algebra module for our middle schools. And the modules were created during distance learning, which has focused on embedding technology in our lessons, formative assessments, and support for asynchronous learning. There's also a differentiated playlist on Ixl for students who show mastery with a skill, or they may need some extra practice. You've heard a few times about the supplemental program we call Ixl, which is utilized to support the learning for students. The C&I department has aligned standards of this program to math in the modules and has adjusted pacing in the curriculum to match the number of direct instructional days of learning. Teachers are encouraged to use this program to provide practice and personalize the learning for students. Teachers are encouraged to remediate, reteach, and accelerate the learning of our students. So our schools will follow this same template of outlining the first and second and third goals. And the first one is academic achievement and English language arts for our students. Our secondary administrators will show the data for their individual schools, as well as action steps to show improvement in that area. This shows a slight decline in scores in ELA from the beginning of the year. We know, and we talked about this last week, that our engagement of our students was an area of opportunity. We will continue, like we said, to have our summer school that will be robust for our students to continue to learn over the summer. Math continues to be an opportunity for our students, and our goal is to provide more support for our students in math this year and next year. And again, extend the opportunity for our students to learn during the summer, to extend their learning over the summer. This outlines the cohort growth of our students from 6th to 8th grade in ELA and math. Schools will also, administrators will outline the 3 to 5 action steps that's tied to academic growth for their school. Our social emotional growth indicators are here. We have 100% of our students that have 2 or less referrals. That's great. And then our schools will outline 3 to 5 steps that support the social emotional growth of our students. And then college and career readiness really focuses on algebra. We know that algebra opens the door to many careers in science, medicine, and serves as a foundational skill and is a prerequisite in many cases with college entrance. Schools and administrators will outline the 3 to 5 steps that's aligned to college and career readiness for their schools. And then goal 3 focuses on attendance for our students. And you'll see a little decline in the attendance of our students. But our administrators will outline 3 to 5 steps that's tied to student attendance in their buildings. So the questions here, each school will have 10 minutes in length for each building and 5 minutes for questions. We'll start with Ritenour Middle School. We are not presenting on Ritenour School for Early Childhood tonight. We will start with Ritenour Middle School, then Hake Middle School, and then Ritenour High School. I don't know if, well, start with Ms. Rich. You come here.
Okay.
Thank you, Board of Ed, for having me here once again. It was great to be with you in the fall. It was my pleasure to share with you the highlights of our wellness team visits in January, and we're here again, and I thank you for your time and allowing me to present to you this evening. Data that has been displayed already on a macro level, but down to the specifics of my building. You'll see either dips or kind of stagnant areas when it comes to proficiency levels, and there's a lot that goes into that. I'll be honest, I came to you tonight to speak about the things that we can't control and that we are focusing on in terms of our action steps. This has been a year that much the work that we've done has been somewhat out of our control. I don't say that statement to the 7 of you in the gathered district leadership lightly. At a certain point, when a home visit reaches its 3rd or 4th point and students are still checking out, parents are not returning calls, we continue to lean into the work and we continue to keep kids connected as best we can. But you know, some of our students in a very real sense have kind of checked out on education this year, but we remain vigilant. We remain open to those students, and every day is an opportunity to build bridges with those students, and we're going to continue to do so until the end of May. But this is data that we own, and it's our reality, both in ELA and in math. So again, as I said before, come to you tonight to talk about the action steps and the things that we are proud of that we're going to continue to do. Similar to the style that we showed in the fall, everything that I've done has been in lockstep this year with my partner at Hake Middle School. Dr. Terrence Peterson and I talk on a daily basis. In a very real sense, there's no initiative that we can implement without checking with the other half of the leadership team. So what you'll see tonight is a dual presented slideshow. So when I deliberately gloss over a point on a slide, know that my partner, Dr. Peterson, will look into that a little bit more in depth because our slides are identical, and it's the same statement that we made in the fall. It's because the work has been in tandem this year. It's a phrase that I've used loosely in front of this body in the past. Started our journey as brand new principals at the middle school together. Brand new principal for me, veteran of Booter for him. We came up with that school, 2 schools, the phrase, 2 schools, 1 vision, and kind of hashtagged it and smiled about it. This year it is no joke. As I said before, we talk on a daily basis. Everything we do is in tandem. In a very real sense, Dr. Peterson and I and our leadership team stood up the RVA at the middle school level this year. It's work that we're proud of and excited about the tone that we've set moving forward with the collaborative spirit at the middle school level. So when you talk about those action steps, I'll talk about points 1 and 2 when it comes to academic growth. As I said before, Dr. Peterson will focus more on point number 2. Kind of touched on this already, organizational alignment, everything we do, we share kids, we share staff, we share stakeholders. This week is a testament to that. You know, we've got parents that are checking in on Zoom links. I'm helping them to get into Zooms for Jimanians who typically would hang his hat over on Ashby Road because I'm the person who's in control of the Zoom links for the RVA. Meanwhile, Dr. Peterson is assisting with counselors that started their year at Ritenour Middle and have shifted over to Hake Middle. So it's been a rewarding process to work with Terrence. And as I said before, it can only pay dividends at the middle school level moving forward. We have set a tone. I would say that would be unparalleled. I think that's I think it's a bold statement, but I think it's an accurate statement. Everything we do is in tandem, and we're going to continue that journey moving forward. Schedules. Worked very, very hard to create a schedule for Hake and Ritenour Middle that was identical. It had to be because we share on-course staff for our students. Moving into phase 2, that work continues. Moving into 4 days live with our kids next month. We're getting back into it. We have a little bit of overcrowding in different areas of our 3 programs, HMS, RMS, and RVA. But it's a situation that the both of us need to solve together with our collective staff. So organizational alignment is the key, but with that comes a common vision for our teachers and goals for our kids. And it's been very, very beneficial, as Dr. Peterson will talk about more specifically when we talk about our approach to math, our work around Ixl, and our shared leadership within the PLC structure. Proud of the non-negotiable instructional tech and innovation that came from the pandemic. Spoke on this in the fall, and it continues. The teacher that was not really that into tech pre-COVID, they had no choice but to be very into tech this year, right? And it showed. We have a lot of teachers that have created a lot of skills for themselves, a lot more tools in their toolbox as we exit out post-vaccine. Excited to see them carry on some of the skills that they've learned during this pandemic into their hopefully more traditional classrooms next year as we kind of settle into the old normal, having lived through the new normal. And proud of the fact that both of our buildings were able to achieve our tech competencies, working directly with Evelyn Gilliam and the PD department, and working hard to make sure that all of our teachers at 100%. I don't know that we were the first, Ms. Gilliam, but I don't think Hake Middle or Ritenour Middle were the last. We were proud of that, to get all our teachers squared away. You know, this is what it is, and we're happy about the reality. But I will say, all jokes aside, there is something to the small classrooms. Make no mistake, we do have students of high needs at Ritenour Middle and at the Hake Middle School campus right now. There is something about smaller classrooms that has been enlightening for all of us. And I'll just kind of leave that in the air. But that's 0 referrals. But keep in mind, we've been on campus since January. So yes, obviously that's data that's not comparable to 18, 19, 19, 20. But that's still 0 referrals for a good month and a half of work with students that are otherwise very quick to collect a referral or two, not too deep into the first quarter. We've got some students that are very, very proud of the success that they've achieved in the more intimate setting this year. So when we talk about what we do for SEB support, as I said before, we're splitting the work here a little bit this evening. My partner is going to speak specifically to items 1 and 3 of the wellness teams and our Husky Pack partnerships. I come to you to talk about a dynamic counseling team. We were able to welcome on a 0.5 counselor. We did not know at the time that counselor would suddenly become the RVA counselor, and that role has shifted mid-year. But the 5 counselors that support our students at Ritenour Middle School did phenomenal work in phase 3 when they were disconnected from their students. So you can only imagine the passion and the inspired work that goes into kids live and in the building, and the work that's gone into reconnecting our students on campus, whether it's a check-in, check-out system, which mind you is still happening at the RVA with the support of Brad Black, or small groups that are gathering, socially distanced, of course, and lunch bunch time. Lunch is a time to get together with our students, make sure everyone is well. So it's great to have our kids back on campus. I'm happy to say these are things that would have happened in a traditional year, but give our phenomenal counselors, one of whom, again, I'll remind you, is the Missouri State Counselor of the Year, Give them 4 months away from their students and watch what happens, right? The heart grows fonder with that distance. All of us were excited to get our kids back on campus in late January, but I would have to put our counselors at the very top of that list, and they continue to do phenomenal work for our kids. So our career and college readiness numbers, again, some dips in the data and the enrollment. But we talk about the things that we're doing. Our virtual field trips talked about last time, and it's been great. Some of that work continued into the phase 3 setting, just staying connected and actually opening up some opportunities through Zoom to visit some of these campuses. No need to put gas in the buses. We can still visit those places, whether it's the North County Tech virtual field trip we took or career fairs that we've hosted. We still keep our kids focused on the future. And my partner is going to talk about items 2 and 4. Proud of the Counselor's Corner happened at both buildings on a regular basis. We're gearing up to do some work for our 5th grade families next month. April is always transition month for our rising 5th graders. We've been able to do some great things over Zoom, specifically when it comes to our Spanish-speaking breakout sessions and the ability for our Spanish families to feel welcome entering a Zoom interface, putting, if you speak Spanish, please identify yourself in Espanol in the chat. Quickly, these families slide into a breakout room and they don't have to wait for their other meeting or wait to have a translator talk to them at the back of the cafeteria as we talk to the rest of the team. They get their own standalone meeting, their own administrative rep. That's actually a practice that I think will continue post-vaccine. So attendance, again, tough situation to deal with. Proud of the fact that our RVA students remain in a positive place when it comes to their attendance. Predictably, though, those students that we've worked to either remove from the RVA because of their attendance or just never engaged in that RVA work, we are struggling with some of our students to keep them in the building. We hope that the 4 days a week will be a boon to that. I'm happy to hear that we are coming back 4 days a week in April. Fridays have been tough for us. Fridays, to the best of our ability to get that message out, marketing to our parents, feel somewhat optional, and those Fridays are a hit. Even though we tell every one of our kiddos when they leave on Thursday, we'll see you online tomorrow, but that focus continues. So as I come to the end and I get my the red warning here to my left, I'll just wrap this up, that Dr. Peterson will speak to items 1 and 3. Attendance incentives, though, it's neat. We were incentivizing attendance, and you remember I visited you in January, knocking on students' doors and delivering goodie bags. Well, now that they're back in the building, we're back in our groove, right? We get back to our pause shop, opened every Wednesday in the Ritenour Middle School cafeteria through pause of applause and positive behavior tickets that they received in the building. And Black History Month wouldn't have been the same without our kids on campus. DJ Alex Terrence, if you will, my phenomenal assistant principal that made Black History Month a great month at Ritenour Middle, was able to put African-American hits on the PA every morning so that students could be rewarded. African-American history trivia, music trivia. So a lot kids are back in the building, a lot more fun's happening in the building. So whether we were in phase 3 and trying to build those bridges or welcoming them back and doing the great things that we do, it's been a very interesting year, but it's been a year where I've learned that no obstacle is too big to get connected with our kids.
So Dr. Rich, I look at your attendance and see a significant split between virtual and in person. So 86% attendance for RVA students, which is a bit above where you are the last couple of years, and 54% for in-person learners. So you spoke that Fridays, for some, the perception was that Fridays are optional for the in-person learners. What else do you attribute to that low rate of attendance for in-person kids?
Well, I think in order to stay with the RVA in phase 2, it took a certain amount of attentiveness with the parents that were able to be a part of that program. So predictably, the parents that are going to read their emails and stay on top of the opportunity to be a part of that program. You've got some people that are connected to their learning in there. Just got some anecdotal data, Dr. Kilbride, our last night of conferences, our veteran Mark Goldman, over 20-year veteran at RMS. And again, this is anecdotal, but shared data that last night's conference is better attended than any time in his career at Ritenour. He's an RVA teacher. So there is this sense of the RVA student as one that had to opt into that program, had to re-opt into that program as we made that transition. And so we're seeing the fruits of that labor with those students. Evaluate rates of completion are a little bit higher in the RVA. No excuses, but the students that we have then that are hybrid, we've got some great kids that are coming hybrid. And as I talked about at the beginning, if there is the prototypical student that we have somewhat lost in the pandemic, that is that hybrid student that is still unfortunately not coming, that has potentially been hotline multiple times, multiple home visits, no excuses, and the work continues, but that is the profile of that student this year in Ritenour. They are not typically your RVA student, they are the hybrid student.
Did you also see that the asynchronous virtual time for hybrid learners was not a positive strategy, or students weren't engaged a great deal?
Very much optional, sir. And it ended up becoming a little bit of it was a struggle for our teachers, right? Because they did not want to punt on 2 additional days of education, but yet they did not want their failure rates to go through the roof by demanding that the work get done. So it was really, my heart went out to the educators, in those core departments where they had to make a decision about, how much of this is going to count against their grade, how much of this will be required, how much of it is practice. Because keep in mind, there are students that were taking advantage of all 5 days, but there were a legion of students that were not. And so that was the bargain that they had to make when it came to assigning that work, putting a grade to that work. It was tough. It was tough for the teachers. There's some concerns about the 4-day week that I don't need to speak about in this body. You guys are familiar with that. But to a man and woman at the building, we are thrilled to have our kids back in front of us on a regular basis. Yes, ma'am. Yes. I believe at that point, then once there's a rhythm Monday through Thursday, then that lone Friday activity will be more linked into the rhythm of the work. But the start stop, it's just tough. It's tough. We did our very best. I'm so proud of my staff. I don't come here tonight to make excuses, nor would my staff expect me to. But it was tough. And the data is out there that the work was just not getting done. You saw the survey results, less than 3 hours at a time. And I think the parents were the ones that had a more optimistic view than the teachers did, if I remember correctly on that pie graph.
That's right.
Now, I had a question because I was looking at your ELA and your math with your Hispanic population, and I find it interesting that you have less of a drop with the RVA than you do with the hybrid. You spoke of having the interpreters. Is that what is helping with those children with specific needs for language? And if you do go to complete hybrid with everyone, how can you help those children that maybe need that interpreter within the classroom?
Well, so what I would say to that is we were able this year to welcome in, this is the first year at Ritenour Middle, where we've had a 2 individual EL team. In previous years, we had a teacher and a TA. This year, we had 2 full EL teachers that have done phenomenal work. This last month, they brought our RVA students up to take the WIDA access test, and rates in the high 90s that I'm proud to say. Those were students that potentially could have opted out and just not shown up, but through the relationships that were made with Miss Dowd, who's a brand new teacher to Ritenour and a brand new teacher period, and Miss Lammert, also brand new to Ritenour. You talk about a tough year to get up and running on your feet in a brand new district, but that duo really just took off from the start, actually restructured some of the things we were doing in the building and just made those connections with our kids online and in the classroom. And then if you'll remember, the theme of my presentation in January was getting out and about with my translating partner, Rosie Morales, and building those bridges specifically with some of those students that were out there struggling with academics and with language. Try to remove a little bit of that double whammy and just letting them know that we hadn't forgotten about it and we were going to keep checking in on them. We're back in our rhythm. We're visiting kids on Fridays now for obvious reasons, because Friday's the day that they might get lost. So Rosie and I are riding around the neighborhood. We'll wave if you see you 2 to 4. Rosie and I are cruising around the neighborhood and checking on our kids and making sure that a Friday was a day of perfect attendance.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Dr. Rich?
Thank you for everything you've done.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rich.
Hard work.
Thank you all for having me tonight. It was just last month and I was here presenting to you all about something that our choir teacher is doing. I hope you all had a chance to look at that video because we're really proud of it. She has since made another one, so if you're interested in looking at the other one, feel free to reach out to her, Kim Carson, because she's very proud of the work. So thank you for having us last month, and I am happy to be here tonight. As Dr. Rich said, our data, of course, if you can look at our data all around, there was expected dips across the board. I'm not necessarily going to speak to any particular dip, but there was some concern, of course, with our evaluation and some fidelity to the test. So there were a number of different variables that came into play, but nevertheless, we did have some struggles with our achievement as far as the evaluation is concerned. Because of that, we have also done a number of kind of data related searches into how students are doing overall with their grades and their academics and their classroom grades, what they're doing on Ixl, which is another program that we're using that I'll speak to later a little bit for their interventions. And we continue to try to keep a pulse on how our students are achieving overall, understanding that there are a number of variables at play. Our cohort data as far as our ELA and math, of course, math always, there's a big decline once the students arrive at 8th grade. A big factor to consider in that is that our algebra students are pulled out of that data as well. So you'll see on there, you can see on the presentation, how our algebra students fared in ELA, math on the evaluate test in the slides as well. Some of the things that I wanted to speak to, of course, Dr. Rich spoke to a number of these different factors, but I wanted to speak to something that we're doing as far as instructional alignment in conjunction with, we are experiencing a lot of professional development with our math teachers. We understand that math is a very big focus of ours. We continue to have that focus. We continue to have a number of different conversations around math. We have been doing some development, professional development with Melville, Maplewood, Richmond Heights, and Ritenour once a month, and what we call Math 314. This is in conjunction with Wash U's. This is a program they have developed to talk about structures to put in place to help us achieve in math. It's also about changing the mindsets, and each district comes out with a plan to address some of the deficiencies in math. Along with Dr. Rich, Mandy Harvell, a number of our math teachers in both buildings, and Dr. Stewart served on that 314 math team, and we continue to meet to develop a plan to address math. And so that's one of the things that we're really doing to focus on helping. Also, our Ixl, I talked about Ixl, and Ixl is really not necessarily an acronym. It means just that thing, Ixl. In that. And so that is something that we're doing with our interventions that we're addressing with all of our students. And even though a number of our students need interventions, all of our students are continuing to go through the Ixl program because it is an adaptive program that helps students advance on wherever they fall on the spectrum. So we have some students who are working on Ixl and they are working on a college, almost a high school, like 12th grade level in either math or reading. So that test is adaptive as they take the diagnostic and they continue to work on skills that are beneficial to them. So we're finding a lot of leverage in working with our Ixl. We also have worked with our algebra math lab students, and you'll find that there was a really good surprise in that there was an increase in our algebra students as far as their proficiency level on algebra. We can contribute that to a number of different factors, but one is that they have been working with our interventionist students, interventionist teachers to get special instruction in algebra. This has been a successful endeavor, so much so that we have been talking to Dr. Stewart, and in agreement from you all, we were able to post for 2 additional math teachers who will be doing some of that similar work. Dr. Rich and I will be conducting interviews, and we're excited about that because we understand, as Dr. Rich has spoken before earlier, we understand how important it is to make sure you can have a focused group of students to work with. Smaller class sizes, those things are always have an impact, a positive impact on achievement. I do not have 100% of students who do not have a referral, but I do have 100% of students who have less than 2 referrals. Unfortunately, we know that there are not parallel factors considering this year and last year, but nevertheless, there is a difference of the socio-emotional climate in our buildings. The students understand that, you know, although this is a sad time with the pandemic, they understand that it's all about business. We are here to learn. We are here to do what we're supposed to do. They have structures in place that they follow because they very much are really interested and invested in learning. It is really refreshing to go into a classroom and see that the students, although they're small in number, they are really participating. They're happy to be back. They're engaged, and they do not have to worry about, to be honest, they do not have to worry about some of the other stuff that gets in the way when there are more students in the classroom and there's some disruptions that they have to deal with. So that has been a very positive, nice product of this situation. Without social and emotional support, some of the things that we've done, Dr. Rich talked a little bit behind this, but each of our buildings have wellness team meetings. We meet weekly, 2 times a week, in fact, one earlier in the week and then one later in the week to talk about tasks and things that we will be doing. We have that wellness team meetings. Each member of that wellness team has what we call a case management or a case management group, where we differentiate and specialize for individual students who need certain supports to be in place. And with those supports come home visits, a number of different things. We have different check-ins. As the students come, they have different plans. And we realize that, of course, just because the students have certain structures in the pandemic doesn't necessarily always negate that they will automatically just fall in line. So we know some of those students who are going to be struggling in any setting, no matter what. And so we make sure that we specialize, have plans, have parent meetings, have individual things set up for those students as well. And that includes a number of different check-ins throughout the day. Also, as far as our Husky Pack partnerships go, we meet, there is, of course, some concern with asynchronous learning. However, what I can say about asynchronous learning is that for the students who take advantage of that, and for the parents who take advantage of that, and they are diligent about their child checking in at those times in the morning and in the afternoon when they're not scheduled to be in school, they have success. Our teachers are really invested in that. They've put in a lot of work to make sure that the asynchronous learning times go. And as I echo what Dr. Rich says about the fact that they were somewhat hesitant about not seeing the students every day, but they put that structure in place and they wanted to make sure that they could connect to those students. And those students who are taking advantage of those asynchronous learning days and they're checking into their Husky time, it has proven to be very beneficial for them. We have also realized that the Husky time schedule that we have, where we have 2 partners, 2 teachers in there with a smaller group of students, has been an effective model also. Well, so much that initially we did not have a Husky time class for our virtual students. But since the second semester started, we looked at the data, we saw that there was a need to make sure that the virtual academy students also have someone to connect to. And so we have since implemented a plan to make sure those students as well receive the Husky time, and that has been beneficial for them as well. As I was saying, even though our enrollment had took a slight dip, there has been some proficiency in our algebra numbers. And once again, I can go back to talking about some of the things that we are doing with math and algebra, the Math 314, and some of the other things that we have been doing with that. Our plans to address college and career readiness includes bringing back some of those things that the students have had that invested that ownership in them in the building. I know in my building a few years ago, I ran a leadership team, a student leadership team, and they have presented to you all a number of times. So we're trying to get that back up and running to make sure that our students have a voice. They have a place where they can actually make some decisions around the school. We're starting with our students who are receiving student announcements and doing things of that nature. And we're trying to get our NJHS back up and running. And we have one of our teachers who's going to do a co-NJHS, co-sponsor NJHS for both buildings. He's going to do it for both buildings this year. So we're excited about the opportunity to get our NJHS back up and running. Also, high school registration was really a success this year. It was something that the virtual environment did add to, because we know that our students have historically been taking things home to their parents, and then there has been some gaps in them registering. Well, this year we had a pretty high, and Dr. Moore could probably speak to it a little bit more, a pretty high level of participation from not only students, but of parents as well. And that was a nice byproduct of us being virtual, because the parents were able to get online with a number of our students as they registered for their high school courses. And I work with our counselors in both buildings in conjunction with the counselors up here, Dean Dunning, and the administrators up here. Was a successful turnout for our high school registration. So that was a really nice byproduct of us doing high school registration through their classes online. As far as our attendance numbers, of course, attendance continues to be a concern. You will notice that, once again, as I echo what Dr. Rich stated, our RVA numbers are pretty consistent, as they have always been. And that's a lot of factors. There's a lot of factors that go into that, but one of those things is a lot of our RVA students are there and they want to learn, they want to make sure. And then we have some gaps as far as the commitment for some of our high-risk students. So we continue to still do different things to address attendance. One is going back to those wellness team meetings. We have building check-ins. We continue to do those home visits. And as Dr. Rich has said, unfortunately, we have had to make several hotline calls about that, but I feel that the system is so overwhelmed at this point with those things that they're still not being as effective as they have been in the past. But nevertheless, one other interesting byproduct of the wellness teams is that not only are we connected to students and helping them have success, we have brought in some support of families as well. So our wellness teams are not just only devoted to just working with a student, but there have been a number of times that we have worked with that family and have extended some supports to them to do as well. And going back to, once again, even though our asynchronous time, the survey data did reveal some discouragement about asynchronous learning, as I stated before, the students who really take advantage of that and the families who really take advantage of that, those opportunities are there, and then make sure that those students are still learning on those days when they are off. And as I get my 0-minute time is up card, I'm up to my last slide. So thank you guys for having me tonight. Appreciate it.
What is that?
That is one of my teachers, one of my new teachers, first-year teacher. So she's first-year teaching, period, not coming from anywhere else, straight from new student teaching. She decided, as they were doing the Continental Congress, to dress up as George Washington and pretend that the students were at the Continental Congress and they were coming up with their own constitution of how their classroom should run. So she had a really good time dressing up as George Washington. She pretended that she was transported there. George Washington was transported there by Miss Dawson is her name. And she really got, the kids really got into it. But at the root of it, I know it seems like a lot of fun, but there was a lot of learning going on. A lot of engagement, a lot of dialogue about what went on at the Constitutional Congress. So that's just a picture I thought that I can show that we're still learning, we're still getting kids in groups, and they're still doing things, even though there's a trying time, but we're still doing fun things in the classroom.
You know, Dr. Pearson, I had a question. I was looking at your college and career readiness, and we know Algebra 1 is so important. It can be a bit of a gatekeeper for so many things, and I think you spoke to that. To go through this year with the pandemic and all the challenges, and actually to see an increase in student performance in Algebra 1, what does that cause you to think through? What kind of perspective do you have?
As I said, I think there are a number of variables going into there, but I think there has, and there continues to be, a really strong focus on our math period. So our algebra students and our math students, and we saw some growth and we saw some gains because there were situations that we were putting in, especially with the pandemic, where the students had to focus solely on their academics. And there was a lot of other things that were not getting in the way of that. So I think our teacher will be the first to to be a testament to the fact that they could really teach. There were times that they could really, instead of dealing with some of the other situations, they can really buckle down and can focus on some of that. So I think there are a number of variables that I can say that add to that increase in our algebra. Well, one of those is that we are also working, as I said with Dr. Rich, both of us had these programs in our building where we have teachers who pull certain algebra students and have some focused instruction, some differentiated instruction for those algebra students. Whereas in the past, we haven't had a structure like that because it has been built around remediation primarily. So there has been a focus on those students who are lower to try to help them up, but there has not been as much of a focus on those students who are higher. And with us being able to hire this teacher, hopefully, and with the work that some of our interventionists and some of our other teachers have done, I think our Algebra 1 scores have increased.
Your time at what you were talking about how you didn't have Husky time and now you do, and it was great. What is Husky time?
So Husky time is it's almost like an advisory period. So you can say it's an advisory period, but it's a period that's designed for a teacher, or for the hybrid students, they have a pair of teachers who really connect with the students on that individual level. So it's going along with our vision and our model of every child, every day. So it's making sure that those teachers, if they're not responsible for anyone else, every student has an advocate because they have a Husky time teacher who they can connect with. And the Husky time teacher does a number of different things with them, from academics to social emotional support to character education, and they just do a number of different things in that class.
They just talk to them individually and say how do you...
Well, they are in the class together. So they're in the class together in the morning for the high students. At 7:30, they start off their morning with the Husky time, and then there's another Husky time class where they give them the interventions through Ixl. And then in the RVA, they also have a contact group or a Husky time group where they connect with them. So there are some individualized things that they're doing, those teachers are doing, but then there are also some building initiatives that get taken care of in Husky time as well.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to make a quick comment. I think one of the best positive outcomes that I've seen with my daughter having gone to Ritenour Middle School, I'm so proud of you two collaborating what you're doing. And I think it's almost made you stronger.
I would agree.
The excitement level is just so much more seeing that going into it, because really that's where our kids are kind of coming to that apex, coming up to the high school. So I really appreciate the work you guys have done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I would definitely agree with that as well. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, students. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to be here this evening. As much as I would like to have lots of celebrations, we have to face some facts that we have seen some dips in the high school. It's very similar to, I'm sure, what you heard last week and what has already been simply stated by Dr. Peterson and Dr. Rich. Our kids over time became less and less engaged. And the more we saw that and the more we continued to reach out, and over time for our wellness and attendance teams to see fewer and fewer people coming to the door, it necessitated to us as a leadership team and as an administrative team that I reached out to Dr. Kilbride and said, this asynchronous system is not working for most of our kids. I would agree with Dr. Peterson for kids that were taking advantage of the program and using the 2 days that were asynchronous, they were having success. But for many of our kids and parents, they were seeing those 2 days as days off, and therefore had significant impact on the academic success of our kids. And that is a large part of the reason why you will see this kind of data for English and in my mind, even greater significantly drops in math. This is nowhere near what we want to see for the high school. And with being back 4 days a week, I would say that over the very short time that we have left leading into the EOCs, that we will recover some pretty significant data points as we move along. Because, and in short order, you will see our data for our attendance, that it is not where we want it to be. But now that we are back in the rhythm of 2 full weeks of 4 days a week, it's been going well. Kids are very excited to be back in session, and it doesn't feel normal yet, but it's as close as it's going to be this school year. And it's been very exciting to have kids back, and I see heads nodding. It's been great to be back and to be in a position where we can directly reach out and touch kids who most significantly need the support. As far as our goals, we are continuing to use the secondary instructional model, focusing on rigorous instruction and learning strategies. One of the big things that through Dr. Stewart's leadership was to move to having the primary focus, that laser focused point of using our priority standards, because we just do not have or did not have enough time to be taking this much spread and do it in this much time. It just wasn't going to work. We were never going to get there. So we jumped on the idea of using priority standards to laser focus our instruction. And as we moved along throughout the course of the school year, we have continued to do walkthrough and formal observations. And in that process, we are continuing to have coaching conversations. I know some of you are parents here. I do a weekly video message out to parents, and I know that my assistant principals are getting information out to their grade levels. And the point of that is, number one, to keep you connected to what we are doing on a broader scale, but also to make specific points about how you can keep your student engaged and active in the learning process. I'd love to say that we had 0% referrals, but all things considered, 7 referrals, 3/4 of the way through the school year is pretty impressive. And you need to know that all 7 of those were while we were not in-person session. We have not had a single referral in the time that we came back since January 19th. I'm a little disappointed here when we get to, well, actually it's not here. The suspension data is moderately significant, but I will tell you that all of that data was related to things that happened outside of this building that then came in, where things happened in the community, and unfortunately then we needed to consequence as a result. And I'm very proud of the fact that none of our kids had 2 or more referrals. Those referrals had to do with many times kids getting the understanding that I'm sure you've heard the term Zoom bombing or Google Meet bombing. That was an issue early on. Once we educated our kids on what the expectations were, it stopped. So we are very proud of that. Also very proud of the work that my attendance and wellness teams have been doing. In the month of February, we did 98 home visits exclusively for SEB, social emotional, attendance, or wellness. We also did an additional 50 home visits. And in those 50 home visits, we recovered 64 of the 68 missing Chromebooks that we had. So as it stands right now, we have 4 outstanding Chromebooks that are missing from this school year. That is a credit to the teams that have been going out, making connections, and our teachers saying, hey, we've heard that so-and-so is no longer coming to school. And before we let that moss get onto that stone, we're going out, making contact, and recovering the device. That has been a priority for us, and it's going to continue to be that. Another big thing there is when you look at our support plans for social emotional growth is that, like it or not, we all have unconscious biases. And in April, we are going to do a follow-up in our April staff meeting to a blind spot survey that we did earlier. And we're going to look to see what growth individual teachers and staff have had over the course of the last year. I'm very excited to get that data back and have those conversations collectively as a staff. In looking at our ACT results, we're kind of old and steady there. Our graduation rate is really not what we're looking for, and we're continuing to work to improve that. It's going to be a struggle this year, and being quite honest, because many of our seniors during the time when we were completely shut down had no choice but to move into a position where they were working in lieu of a parent. And for some of our parents, we still have not, they haven't recovered their jobs yet. We are poking, prodding, cajoling, encouraging, doing home visits, anything we can think of to get them back. And we've gotten some back, but now that we went to 4 days and some of their siblings were still on 2 days, we have created, and this has changed just since the data, because when you look here, it's a situation where we have had to put 4 or 5 seniors on learning plans so that they can be able to be home, take care of siblings, and are just working asynchronously doing those 2 days. And I mean, there's a million reasons to be excited about spring break, but one of the biggest ones for us at the high school is that then those kids will be able to come back full time. We are continuing to monitor our kids that either were excelling and are now starting to struggle, or were having past struggles and now are moving into a position where it's becoming dire. Continuing to work with Devon DePalmer and her reaching out and making those contacts with families, it's worked really well. Our attendance is nowhere near where we want it to be. But again, when you have kids that are not answering doors when we go out to do home visits, or families choosing to not answer doors, and Mr. Strong is having to do hotline calls, as Dr. Rich and Dr. Peterson has said, it makes it very difficult when a family is choosing to shut us out. So we are continuing to get out, make those connections, and when we are having kids that have 21 days of absence or greater consecutively, we are dropping them. The registrar is looking to make those connections to stay connected and to find out where those kids are so that we can either move them to another school or actively work to re-engage them. Questions?
I have a question regarding the number of students that we have in the red zone. Do you have a number of that?
Right now, and it's, believe it or not, it is changing. It's always changing up into the positive direction. Right now, it's 70.
That's just for the seniors?
That's just for seniors, yes. And part of that is that we had kids that did not graduate last year and that we have not been able to get them into a position to have graduated at the semester. Some of them are in alternative programs that we're hoping to get graduated. So it is possible for a student to go from red to graduation through an alternative program. Sure. Anything else?
Have you noticed an increase this week since it changed
Increase.
in attendance?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. For the kids that are attending, absolutely. for our kids that are asynchronous, that are virtual, the ones that were attending are continuing to attend. The ones that had not been attending, those are the ones that at this point just aren't answering the door.
So really, there's not been an increase.
No, there's absolutely been an increase as far as our kids that are here. When they were having to do Monday and Wednesday or Tuesday and Thursday,
Right.
some of them were choosing, especially those that were Thursday, were like, hey, if I stay home, I get 2 days off going into the weekend. With being back 4 days, our attendance is going up. Absolutely it is.
What kind of feedback are you getting, Dr. Marker, about concurrent teaching? You know, at Ritenour High School, teachers are teaching the students that are in front of them, but you also have students zooming in at the same time. What kind of feedback are you getting around that?
Speaking frankly, it's a colossal flop. Our teachers are trying everything they can think of. Dr. Stewart and Ms. Gilliam has provided excellent professional learning for our teachers. And I literally have had teachers, and this staff does not draw lines in the sand, but I have had teachers say to me, if I have to do this next year, I'm looking elsewhere, and if I have to, I'll leave teaching.
Like when you drill down beyond that, like what else do they say?
The idea of having to serve kids in front of them while concurrently trying to serve kids that are online, it's just too many plates. And one analogy that one of the teachers gave to me was that they're juggling 40 balls. The job is really to try to have the rubber ones hit the floor so they bounce, to continue to juggle the glass ones, to keep them in the air. But I mean, that's a hard thing to have to do, knowing that you're choosing to leave one child behind simply because you believe that they'll be able to recover when you pick them back up on the bounce.
Could I add something quickly to that?
Sure.
I mean, you pretty much said it, but teachers are just having a really hard time because they have to make separate lesson plans, or they have to sacrifice, I mean, you said it, one group for the other. Because, for example, my theater class, we can't do in-person activities. I mean, in-person kids can't do virtual ones. So my teacher has to make 2 separate lesson plans as well as teach them twice whenever we had 2 cohorts.
Right.
So definitely, I think it's just a little overwhelming for them to have to make the 2 lesson plans, but at the same time, they get that we're in a tough situation right now.
Yeah. Ideally, we would look to create an RVA-esque situation here in the high school where we would maybe have a teacher teach 4 fully in-person classes, and if you're a core teacher, and 2 exclusively virtual classes. And not everyone would have to do that, but it would create a scenario where you could dedicate your teaching to the audience that's in front of you.
Why are they doing 2 at the same time? If somebody's hybrid, they should be here. So why is somebody videoing virtual at the same time that the hybrid's going on?
Because we have, go ahead, Phil.
They're in person for 4 days.
No, I'm talking, no, I know they are, but why are they, you're saying concurrently they're doing virtual while they're doing?
So, yeah, so
Right.
the structure at the high school is different than it is at K to 8. K to 8, you've got wholly virtual teachers, and all their kids are online, and you've got wholly in-person teachers. At the high school, it's double duty.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
biology 1 is being taught, 10 kids are in person, 12 others are zooming in.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And therein lies the difficulty. Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, thank you to our secondary principals for presenting their action steps and for their leadership on identifying strategies to improve achievement in their buildings. This, let me turn to the next slide. So this slide summarizes the action steps at our secondary level. And I'm not going to go through these action steps because our administrators have already done that. And so the common trends involve collaborative structures that have been put in place to meet the needs of all of our students and families. You've heard examples about student support team, wellness teams, to engage our students in this virtual learning environment and to continue partnerships with colleges and universities to prepare our students for college or career. Are there any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say to our administrators at our middle school and high school and to the staff, thank you for being creative and working to meet the needs of our children, our students, and our children. Our students and families, thank you for that hard work and just keep up with the job and continue to be creative and trying to work through all of this process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'd just like to echo the sentiments to Brian, to Terrence, to Jeff. You know, as Lisa shared, this has been a very, very challenging year. Just the level of focus that these leaders have put on continuing to focus on instruction and move learning has been commendable. And with each of them, you know, talking about what are those next practices that even when we're on the other side of the pandemic, in each of the buildings, whether it be Hake, Ritenour Middle or Ritenour High School, there will be some next practices that they've picked up and learned from and will continue to move forward. And, you know, to the question around Terrence, to see the Algebra 1 performance in a time of a pandemic, when a lot of the method of delivery has been virtual, there's something to that, you know, and so I think that's a thing that moving forward, you know, will be better in this district because of what we learned this year. So thank you to all three.
Thank you. Do you want to keep moving on? Do you want to take a quick break? Okay. All right. We will go ahead and move on to our Pledge of Allegiance. And we have our students here today with us from Booter and Marion. Oh, there's a lot of them that stuck behind us. So we'd ask if you guys could stand and maybe have a few of you guys get us started on the Pledge of Allegiance. Can you guys help us with that?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to welcome our School of the Month. As I said, we have Booter and Marion here, and we are going to start with Booter. Dr. Singleton?
Sure.
Good evening, Dr. Singleton. If they want to bring them out.
We've got, so sorry. Oops.
Oh, watch out for the cord.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Singleton, the principal of Booter Elementary School. Tonight I have quite the team with me and I can't wait for them to be introduced to you. Of course, we have our Ritenour School District vision and our mission, and also the part of the equity statement that connects with what we're talking about tonight, which which is we will create an anti-biased, anti-racist system by doing the following to interrupt the cycle of oppression. Invest and engage students in their learning by supporting student and teacher efficacy. And I know tonight, as you learn about Ixl, you are going to be excited at the amount of student and teacher efficacy.
All right, I'm Carolyn Ludhauser, the assistant principal at Booter, and I'm going to introduce our panel of people here this evening. To my right, I have Mrs. Forsty, one of our second grade teachers. And then from her classroom, we have Ashlyn and Arneel. Wave to them. And then over the next teacher, Mrs. Lewis, she's one of our third grade teachers. And then if my students would wave, I have Elias and Isla. And then we have a fifth grader with us this evening, Alexandra. Her teachers couldn't be here this evening because they are working on conferences right now and they were unable to get out this evening. So the two fifth grade teachers that she works with are not here with us this evening. But we also have Dr. Nobile with us this evening, and he is our facilitator that works in our building.
All right, so I'm going to talk to you about what is Ixl. I'm sure you've heard a lot about it in past presentations. So Ixl is a learning platform that our students use on a daily basis. They also use it on the weekends, at night. We have data to show that they're learning outside of school hours. It's a personalized learning platform for each student at their starting point. This program pinpoints them in math and ELA, creates a personalized recommended learning plan for them. It's a tool that helps students know their current level of understanding, and they work towards mastery of skills on there for math and reading. This program allows, you can go back, sorry. This program allows our teachers to provide deliberate and intentional practice on our district's priority standards. Through this practice, our students build skills and confidence on our priority standards. And our teachers tonight have utilized Ixl in an additional manner, and you'll see with our posters here, and Dr. Singleton will go into this a little bit more, but really with this program, our students know where they are in their learning. They know when they're successful on those priority skills, and they know when they need help, and they know when they're ready to go on to the next skill. So for those of you, it might resonate a little bit with our assessment for learning practices. On the next slide are just some quick stats about Booter and Ixl. Booter is very competitive with our Ixl data. We look at it every day, shock and surprise for some people. That says that we've answered over 600,000 questions this year. It's actually a little bit higher than that now. I think we're probably closer to 670, around there. Our students have practiced over 4,000 hours on Ixl, and again, that number is higher from when we made this presentation. 900 of those hours, probably closer to 1,000 now, are outside of those school hours. And on average, our students answer about 83 questions a week. So Ixl provides a lot of data for us that we use and look at on a daily basis.
So this next screen shows our graph of our growth. And boys and girls, do I get really excited about our Ixl growth on the announcements? I get really excited. So this is our growth, and you can see that's math and language arts. So where we started out, yeah, take a look at it, guys. This is your growth, so it's pretty amazing. And so we're really proud of our growth here. So in each classroom that is featured tonight, one of the things that they do is they have a poster, and you can see Ms. Forsty brought an example that has the Ixl codes that they're currently working on as a class. And then what happens is the code is posted, and guys, what do you get to do when you master a code?
Put our name on the wall.
You get to put your name on the wall. How does that make you feel?
Proud.
Absolutely proud. And so I want to just ask the kiddos some questions real quick from Ms. Forsty's room. So how does Ixl help you succeed and meet your goals? Or how does it help you in your learning? Feeling kind of nervous? That's okay. Are you okay?
Whenever I don't know something on math, I could get on the skill I don't know and try mastering that one.
Okay, okay. do you feel when you get to get your name on the wall? I don't want to make anyone feel nervous, but Ashlyn does an amazing job in the classroom and has really prepared and practiced for tonight. She does a great job, has signed her name so many times, and definitely proud of her success. Miss Lewis's class, I have some questions for you guys too. So Ixl, how do you feel when you get to sign your name under mastering a skill?
I feel happy and proud.
I love that. Elias, have you received a Ixl postcard in the mail yet this year?
I have.
Has your family celebrated at all? How did that make you feel?
Good.
Good. Okay, awesome. I think you told me you got to celebrate having ice cream, right? That's pretty incredible. So Alexandra is our 5th grader here tonight, and this is her. And Alexandra, what do you work on when you master a skill? Like, what are you working on when you are working on Ixl? Like, what are you doing when you're on Ixl? The math codes. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
What are some of the math codes that you worked on?
I see.
That's okay.
Okay, well guys, listen, I am it's okay, sweetheart, it's fine. I am super proud of our students that are here today. They have done some amazing work with Ixl and just so proud of all of the work that they have done. We have had so much success in our classrooms and just so proud of the growth that our students have made. We also brought all of our board members here tonight and our adult team members an Ixl postcard with your name on it too, so you can feel what that feels like also. Thank you guys so much for being here. It's okay, baby. Yeah.
So can I ask a question?
Oh, yes.
We have our postcards as an example for you also.
Is Ashley ready now to say something?
I think she might be.
Yeah.
Do you want to say something?
She looks very ready to me.
Do you want me to read it for you? She would like me to read it for her. Because she prepared a whole.
That's awesome.
Okay. So she says, how Ixl helps me meet my goals is it helps me if I'm struggling to answer a question by assisting to give examples. And it gives me progressively difficult questions. So Ashlyn's working ahead of 2nd grade, and she's able to answer those 3rd grade questions to get her ready for 3rd grade. She said that when she is done mastering a skill, she works on difficult questions to achieve a different skill.
That's awesome. So you're almost in 5th grade, I guess, huh? It sounds like it.
They do work really hard on Ixl. And the exciting thing is they work on Ixl not just at school, but where else do you work on Ixl? Do you ever work on it at home? Do you ever, yeah, absolutely. Logging on at home too, so super proud of them.
So Dr. Singleton, that was going to be my question, is that do you see this huge number of questions answered? Do you see that's a lot to, that the students now have their own devices at home and they kind of get excited and maybe do the work at home?
Absolutely. We definitely see that they're working on it during their asynchronous time and also at home. So they're working outside the hours of school. We have Miss Worsty students and parents often contact her and say, okay, my child is working on this on the weekend. They're doing this. They're just so excited because they want to master a skill. Would you say that's true, guys? Do you want to master a skill? Absolutely. They work really hard to master skills. So it has definitely been a positive part of our year and a way to track data. We're able to compare the Ixl with Evaluate, which is exciting. Okay.
All right, so we're gonna ask Alexandra, so how do you feel when you have signed your name on the wall when you've mastered a skill? It's okay, look at your nose.
I feel proud and accomplished.
Awesome, thank you, great.
Any other questions?
So you said you answered all these bazillion questions. Like, can you give me an example of one of them?
Ooh. Does anyone have an example of a question they remember answering? What was one you did today, last remember? Okay.
Just say what you just said.
An elapsed time question? An elapsed time question. Absolutely. Anyone else have an answer? What's another question you remember answering or a type of question? Very nervous tonight, but that's great. I'm so proud of them. Okay, Ixl has one.
Doing area.
Oh, area. That's a big third grade skill, isn't it? How do we do area? What is that? How do we solve area?
I'm trying to remember.
You'll remember. You'll remember.
Well, thank you all for being here. So great to hear all you're learning with IXL. Thanks, Ms. Luthhauser, Dr. Singleton, Ms. Lewis, Ms. Forsby. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to our Booter students who are here. Can I ask our Booter families if you guys could just stand so we can appreciate you? Thank you for all the work you do with your students. All right, now we'll ask our Marion students and Mr. Ewing.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am very, very excited. Oh, I'm Blair Ewing, I'm the principal at Marion, and I am very excited tonight to present to you members of the Marion class of 2033. So, before we do that, I'm going to show you, I guess am I looking? There we go. So, of course, the vision and the mission, which you all have talked about already tonight, and our equity statement. We also are highlighting a piece of the equity statement, point 7. We will create an anti-bias and anti-racist system by doing the following to interrupt the cycle of oppression by investing in and engaging with students in their learning and supporting students and teacher in their efficacy. And obviously we start early. And so at Marion, I talked to you all last week, those of you all who are here, members of the board. I talked to you last week about the challenges that we were facing and how we're working very hard to overcome those challenges. So I'm excited to be able to talk to you about the other end of the spectrum tonight, the real opportunities that the last year has presented us with. So we only have about a little less than half of our anticipated kindergarten class enrolled this year. For obvious reasons, there were families who said we're just going to hold off a year, and being that kindergarten is not compulsory till the age of 7, they're perfectly within their rights to do that. And so that's going to create an obvious problem for us that we're going to work through in the future. But it did create the opportunity, and that opportunity was that we had very small class sizes. And so I was excited to, in December, get invited to a classroom. And so you must know that among our kindergarten writing goals, one of the goals for the end of the year is to, with assistance, be able to write and draw opinion texts that A, use a combinations of drawing and writing to tell an opinion about a topic and text being studied, B, give logical reasons for suggesting that others follow a particular course of action and thinking, and C, use words related to the topic. Now, this is the end of the year goal. We start the year just trying to identify letters and sounds, right? Just learn the alphabet. That's how we start. So I was very excited to, at winter break, get invited to kindergarten classes to hear their writing pieces that they had written prior to winter break, and they were going to present them to us. So you see a couple of our students, Tayon, who's not here tonight, and Genesis, who is, he's actually a I think he's a 3rd or 4th generation written student. I think he's at least 3rd. All right. And so we were very excited to get to hear that. And I thought when we were planning our school of the month, I was like, they gotta want to hear that too. You know, the board's got it, because if it brings as much joy to you as it did to me, then you're in for a treat. So I'd like to introduce Ms. Letterman and Ms. Cross. They're going to introduce our scholars, talk to you about their writing, and you're going to get to hear their writing pieces.
Good evening. I'm Katie Letterman. I'm Chelsea Cross, and we are two of the kindergarten teachers at Marion. And we are so excited to have some of our kindergarten writers with us tonight to share all of the hard work that they've been doing this year. They really have made so much growth. And as Mr. Ewing said, in such a short amount of time, even by November, December, they were writing full sentences. It was just really neat to see that growth with small class sizes. So the writing that they're going to share with you tonight is from a unit that we did in the fall. It was an informative writing unit, and we did some research on animals and their babies. And then each student was able to write their own page, and we put it together into a class book.
At the end of a writing unit, we love to do writing celebrations because the students get the opportunity to share their writing with others, and the kids were over the moon, so excited to share it with Mrs. Broadbent and Mr. Ewing. And we've also found that it builds our confidence and gets them really excited about that writing process.
So we would like to introduce our kindergarten writers that we have with us tonight. We have London, and this is Layla, and this is Genesis, and Ryan, and Alex. Yay. And so they're going to share some of their writing. Oh, okay, so Ryan, do you want to start us off? Come up here. So this is your page right here.
Mm-hmm. I see a line with a little cup.
And so she has some labels on her pictures too, and we've been working really hard to start with a capital letter and put finger spaces and punctuation at the end. So, all right, Alex, do you want to come share yours?
I see a little penguin with a little chick.
Good job, Alex. Right. Let's see. Oh, Genesis, you're next. You ready? You see yours right here?
I see a penguin with a baby chick.
Good job. All right, Layla.
I see a kangaroo with a little Joey. I see a meerkat with a little pup.
We're really excited about our kindergarten writing this year, and we're very proud of them. And I hope you guys are proud of yourselves too, because you have done a fabulous job this year.
And this was in the fall, so
Yes.
think about what they can write now.
Right.
In the spring.
So when you think about the writing lessons, the smaller class sizes, how has that helped you as a teacher? Do you feel like students are moving further, faster than what you've seen in the past? What do you see?
Absolutely. I feel that they're getting the more one-on-one individualized support and just time to work with us at their level. And just, I've just seen them take off. I mean, this, like she said, this was back in November. And I just feel like they've made a lot of progress in a short amount of time this year.
So when you think about your small group conferring or your individual conferring around writing, what are some of the strategies that you're working on with your learners right now?
I would say we're using a lot of sentence stems with them. And just as we work and confer in small groups and individualized, working with them on the finger spaces and the specific skills individually. So just those I'm able to conference with everybody every day. I know Ms. Cross is as well, and just work with them on their piece of writing every single day.
That's awesome. Thank
Yes. Do you guys have any other questions or?
I just wanted to say that was so impressive. I definitely did not know how to read by kindergarten, let alone in front of so many people. So great job, guys. That was so cool.
No, good job. You guys did such a good job.
I have one last question. What is a meerkat?
Ooh.
Meerkat is an animal. It digs into grounds.
It does. It does dig into the ground.
Thank you.
Is it really? I'm thinking of Timon, is it?
I think so, yeah.
Well, great job. And are you all looking forward to coming every day?
Are you excited to see the school every day? So excited, right? Are you excited? Well, thank you all very much. Thank you.
Scholars make their way back, and let's ask Marian parents, if you can please stand so we can recognize you. Thank you for all your help. Good reports from our school. Thank you guys so much.
All right, moving on to 1.07. I'd like to report that the Board of Education met in closed session on February 4th, February 11th, and February 25th for the purpose of discussion of personnel agenda items. Moving on to 1.08, public comments. Do we have any public comment? Okay. Moving on to our reports, I have 2.01, the President's Report. I am very excited to tell you about Ritenour High School Junior, Azariah Estes. Her amazing story about organizing a blood drive for Ritenour High School was featured in the St. Louis American newspaper last month. The blood drive took place on February 23rd at the Hilton Garden Inn, St. Louis Airport, and was a great success. Her role included registering people to give blood and answering questions about donating. The story in the newspaper also indicated that her motivation for organizing the drive was personal because her boyfriend is battling a blood disease. An American Red Cross representative said that she made a personal connection to the drive, and her enthusiasm and determination are incredibly admirable. She is a dual enrolled student at Ritenour High School and St. Louis Community College in Flo Valley, and she plans to earn her high school diploma and associate degree simultaneously when she graduates in 2022. Way to go, Azariah. We are very proud of you. Moving on to 2.02, we have our superintendent's report. I'll turn it over to Dr. Kilburn.
Thank you, Ms. Slonis. So Linda Vocal, Linda, are you here with us tonight? You can just stand right where you are. So board members, I'm excited to talk to you about Ms. Linda Vocal, a teacher at our School for Early Childhood. Ms. Vocal was recently recognized as February's Weber Chevrolet Tools for Teachers winner. Ms. Vocal was nominated by Valerie Stanfel, who is also an educator at the SEC and also the parent of one of Ms. Linda's students. Ms. Valerie mentioned that Ms. Linda shows nothing but love and patience to her daughter, Lila. She beams with excitement and joy when Lila recounts her school day. Ms. Linda provides fun and engaging activities to help every child succeed in her classroom, and she always gives everything that she has for her students year after year. Ms. Linda was recently featured on Channel 11 and received a $500 gift card for use for supplies in her classroom. Would also like to recognize Ms. Linda as one of the teacher leaders at the School for Early Childhood that is always going above and beyond to meet the needs of the students and the staff of the building. So Linda, I just want to say thank you for everything that you do. The recognition is very much deserved, and board members would ask that we would give Miss Linda a standing ovation for her leadership. Thank you. For all you do, and thank you for being here. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. We will go ahead and have you report on the LAC, please.
So board members, for the LAC report, there's a number of bills that we're keeping our eye on. The first is House Bill 942. So we had a LAC session a couple of Fridays ago. We focused in on House Bill 942, which has to do with creating a new criteria for the accreditation system. And so Doug Bray's office created a letter that was sent out to the LAC that could be pushed along to our representatives, our 5 elected representatives in the House. This bill has been stripped back a bit, but is still a concern in that it creates these arbitrary targets and arbitrary thresholds for accreditation standards. So it's something we'll continue to keep our eye on. Also, Senate Bill 55 is the big Omnibus Bill. An Omnibus Bill is a bill that starts off, includes a number of concerning items, but knowing that it's got some momentum, other legislators will try to attach amendments onto it, and it just keeps growing and growing. So Senate Bill 55 is slow. The momentum has slowed on Senate Bill 55. But this is going to be a session much like many of them, where in the final 2 weeks of the session in May, it's possible for Senate Bill 55 to pick up momentum again and make it across the finish line, which would be very concerning for schools because it does include expansion of charters, both virtual and bricks and mortar. And then finally, would like to draw your attention to House Bill 543. It's the open enrollment bill. That's been filed by Representative Pollitt of Sedalia, who's a former superintendent. It's the open enrollment bill, which would allow students across the state of Missouri to enroll in the district of their choice. There is a provision that says in the first year, no more than 5% of students could opt to enroll in another district outside of the boundaries in which they live. But after the first year, that 5% threshold is removed, and it would be wide open. So House Bill 543, I would say in the coming week, is the bill that is going to be receiving the greatest amount of focus, and I'll keep you updated through updates during the week. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Moving on to 2.04, we have our special school district report with Dr. Alvin.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So this is concerning the March 1st Governing Council meeting. We'll cover some of the highlights. Within the fiscal year of 2022 budget, they are going to be having 35 new teachers, 3 speech language pathologists, 2 social workers with a total of 40. Now I was going to direct the real concentration of how we are affected as Ritenour to Dr. Kilbride, because he had met, and I think he just found out today kind of how that works.
Yeah, so in addition, in the special school district budget, special school district is ensuring that each school district has their own director. So currently our director is Miss Dee Burns, and she's split between Ritenour and Pattonville. So special school district has included in their budget that each district will have their own director. So we will be interviewing candidates for that position. And also keeping Ms. Burns in mind to continue the work here, because she has done great work in her tenure here in the district. In addition, we'll be receiving an instructional coach from special school district. So we've never had an instructional coach in the past that would be full-time in the district. That process, that position was open, there were applicants, and so looking forward in the near future to hearing about the interview team's perspective on that instructional coach that will be working with not only special school district teachers, but also Ritenour teachers that support students with IEPs. We do expect at least 2 additional teaching positions to reduce caseloads, and we are at 4 area coordinator positions. And so I do believe administratively that we're well staffed and appreciate special school district support.
Is that gonna happen this coming year or just?
Starting July 1 into the next fiscal year.
Thank you.
Then on top of that, they talked about a couple of budget adjustments for the fiscal year of 2021, which were 2 of them were learning programs. One is News to You, Unique Learning, and Goal Book. They've also been able to increase the number of Chromebooks at North County Tech and add 2 buses as well as a column lift system. Next up, we had our SSD board member elections. So for Sub-District 4, which only has 1 year left, would be Mr. Scott Moeller, Preferred Floor, Pattonville and Riverview Gardens. Sub-District 5 for the 3-year, which covers Brentwood, Kirkwood, Lindbergh, Maplewood, Valley Park, and Webster Groves, is Dr. Meredith Byers. Sub-District 6, which is 3-year, which includes Ritenour. Clayton, Normandy, and University City is Ms. Tiffany Hudson. And that concludes my report. If there's any questions.
Are those people running and there's no one else signed up?
No, they had their packets and we had voted on them, and they didn't just get right on. They had definitely, there was a wonderful turnout for each one of them.
Good. Good, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Dr. Alvin. Dr. Thomas, I'll move to you for the MSBA and SBA.
Okay, as we queue up our video, I want to call your attention to the amount of emails you probably hopefully have been getting. Opportunities to learn with webinars from MSBA and NSBA. One in particular, if I can find it here real quick. They have a Missouri School Board put out a survey, Your Voice Matters, sent out on March 8th. Please take a moment to fill out the survey. As you guys know, everybody here knows, it's a member-driven organization. So if they don't know what we're thinking and needing and wanting, they can't react to that. So please take a few moments in your busy day and fill that out. Are we ready, Mike?
You betcha.
All right, let's roll that film.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's board report for the month of March. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at the effort to provide a more coordinated approach to early childhood care and education in Missouri. Missouri's new Office of Childhood will consolidate early childhood-related programs in various state agencies into a single office within the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Chief of Early Learning, Pam Thomas, tells us the new office will allow for a whole child approach to serving children and families.
We know that we need children to be safe and feel safe, and they need to be healthy and fed and feel well, have a good well-being in order for them to learn. So the great thing about this new office is bringing that whole child approach to the way that children learn and getting them ready for school.
Thomas adds the Office of Childhood will play a role in supporting the availability of early childhood education programs in the state.
I think it also helps provide a way for us to promote and elevate early childhood in places that we're not doing that right now, but it also respects that all of our programs are voluntary. So I think it really comes to that perspective of if families have a need and they need something, how can we provide that for them? Very family centric. And sometimes what you find is we have more program centric situations where this is the program that's available, but it may not meet the family's needs. And so we need to be more family-centric and looking at those voluntary opportunities for families to access if that's what they need.
Thomas says work is underway to move programs within the Department of Social Services and the Department of Health and Senior Services into the Office of Childhood, along with programs currently in the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. The goal is to ensure children throughout the state have access to more consistent and quality programs and services. The new Office of Childhood will be in place by August 28th. By the way, MSBA's Future Builders Foundation is now accepting applications for the 2021 Early Childhood Education Program of the Year Awards. There will be 3 awards for exemplary early childhood education programs based on school district size. Applications will be judged by the Future Builders Board of Directors in April. The deadline for submitting an application is March 31st. MSBA continues to be concerned about several issues being considered in the current session of the General Assembly that would be harmful to our public schools. They include the expansion of charter schools without adequate accountability, the creation of virtual charter schools, and tax credit voucher programs, sometimes called empowerment scholarship accounts, that would funnel public dollars to private schools that are not accountable to taxpayers. There are also bills under consideration that would create a system of open enrollment among school districts, allowing students in one district to attend school in another district free of charge. The resident district would then be required to pay the non-resident district the per pupil local effort, and the non-resident district can count the student as a resident for the purpose of state and federal aid. Jefferson City School Board member Ken Enlow testified at a recent legislative hearing. He's concerned taxpayers from one school district could end up financially subsidizing another school district.
We all know district levies are passed by local taxpayers with the expectation that those funds and those dollars are going to be used locally and that district. And so we obviously have a concern about any legislation that would cause that to be messed with. To me, it's the equivalent of taking the state taxes that I pay to Missouri and then someone telling you as the legislature to send those dollars to Illinois and let them decide how they're used. And I don't think that's a great idea.
As the legislative session progresses, we will keep you updated on developments again this year through our Legislative Voice newsletter sent to members via email each Friday during the session, our Twitter feed with up-to-the-minute developments, through critical issue alerts and periodic webinars. We urge you to stay in contact with your legislators during the session and communicate to them the impact legislation will have on your school district. A reminder that the MSBA Legislative Forum is now scheduled for April 12th in Jefferson City. Check the MSBA website for registration information. There's still time to apply for a spot in MSBA's Center for Education Safety's School Safety Academy coming up in early August. The Academy will provide a variety of courses at no cost for certification of participants as school safety specialists. The School Safety Academy is open to all school safety coordinators, school resource officers, school protection officers, and other key school safety personnel. Space is limited. Check the Center for Education Safety section of the MSBA website for information on the application process to attend the Academy. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
That academy might be something that you want to consider sending someone to, because I think Mike Wheelan had gone to it before. It helped us out a lot. One more thing I wanted to point out is today at about 8:53, I received an email from the National School Board Conference. They have a new publication going on called Going Above and Beyond. It tells you about the achievement of students and such like that, and good news things, and it's worth reading as well. Okay. And with all that, enjoy all the emails and the information you get, and please take time in your busy schedule to go through. That is my report.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. Moving on to our business items, 3.01, we have our technology integration plan.
So board members, there'll be three parts to this presentation. So it's Dr. Stewart and Dr. Harlan, as well as Ms. Gilliam. We'll be giving you an update on technology related items, and then we'll be closing with a recommendation from Dr. Harlan on the E-rate project.
Hello again. So Dr. Harlan and I are presenting the technology integration plan that was created with various staff members in Ritenour School District. Ritenour School District works in collaboration with parents in the community to develop leaders who are recognized for academic excellence and high levels of integrity. The mission of Ritenour School District is to ensure all students think critically, solve problems, and learn in a nurturing environment that prepares them for success in a diverse global society. As it relates to our equity statement, technology resources have been allocated equitably across the district with one-on-one technology, hotspots, and other forms of support for our students and families. Also, we have been supporting everyone in the school community with resources and technology support, with translators, home visits to support our students. We use technology resources as a tool to provide an opportunity for students to learn about other cultures as well. So this plan has 5 areas of focus: the student learning focus and high quality staff. I am going to provide an overview in those 2 areas, and Dr. Harlan is going to provide some details as it relates to the areas 3, 4, and 5. The plan, like I said earlier, was created with input from teachers and staff members across the district. And it really focuses on our current reality, the progress that we have made in that area, opportunities for improvement, recommendations, and our final impact of recommendations, or financial impact of those recommendations. Students experience and continue to experience technology at all levels, pre-K through 12, with coding, online learning, blogging, podcasting, science, technology, engineering, and mathematical activities, and Google applications. There are some celebrations this year. We have had a high level of implementation of Google Classroom and Seesaw with our students, and then all of our students have access to online learning in kindergarten through 12th grade. And our students are learning to be very proficient with technology. We had a kindergarten teacher send me a picture of a student, a kindergarten student that's teaching other students Ixl during asynchronous time. It's just the level of which our students and our teachers have learned technology this year. That is a celebration. And our goal is to increase the outcomes for all of our students. And then Ritenour Virtual Academy has provided another opportunity for our students to learn more about technology as well. There are still some opportunities. We will continue to teach our students with digital citizenship. Some of those referrals that you heard earlier was related to that. So we will continue to teach that to our students. Also, we want to look at different options for kindergarten and 1st grade as it relates to, they had tablets this year in the kindergarten, and that did not, some of our principals and our teachers feel that they wanted an upgrade as it relates to those tablets or Chromebooks. Felt like Aristotle does not work with the tablets that we purchased, so that was a struggle with that. And some of the apps were not working with that as well. Also, in the committee, we talked about the importance of showing our students how to log into Google at home because they don't have access to the programs at home. And it's a simple thing that we could just teach the students to make sure they all understand how to log in at home. Also, we will continue to expand our innovative learning experiences for our students. We know that technology and education go hand in hand. We want to prepare our students for careers that are related to technology, science, and engineering. We also want to make sure we provide opportunities for students to think critically, solve problems, and work collaboratively with each other. Some examples of future technology integration ideas is augmented technology, virtual reality. And as we move to competency-based learning in the future, we will continue to explore ways for students to demonstrate their knowledge and use of engineering process to create objects and that will benefit our society. We also want to use technology as a tool to improve outcomes for our students. The second area is high qualified staff. Again, professional development we've had that has focused on the integration of technology for our teachers. Also, they have had access to Otis, which is an online professional development tool all year. We also have 4 self-paced math courses at Ritenour High School, which really the purpose of that is for our students to, they can accelerate. It's individualized. Students can accelerate at their own rate. Also, you've heard tonight several examples of how some of our schools are using Ixl to increase the engagement and differentiation for our students. We still have opportunities as it relates to high qualified staff. We need more professional development on Aristotle, which is the internet filtering software program. Some of our teachers are talking about the needs in that area to continue that learning. And then we also want to increase the number of staff that have the ISTE certification. Also, our math department requested 2-in-1 devices. They feel that that will allow them to have more movement in the classroom, and then they can create videos to help our students learn too. Also, we want to continue to have ongoing professional development and some of these engagement area tools like Flipgrid and Nearpod and Padlet. I think Ms. Gilliam, our coordinator of professional development, may speak to this a little bit more, but we have noticed that we are highly proficient in some areas as it relates to Google Classroom, Seesaw, but as it relates to some of the engagement tools, not as much. So we want to continue to work in those areas. So we also sent out a survey to our staff as it relates to technology needs and their ideas about technology, and asked them which they feel should be the primary video conferencing format for Ritenour School District. So we had 78% of our teachers and staff said that they preferred Zoom, and about 18.4% of the staff preferred Google Meet. But if we look at this, and I looked at the presentation from last year, and that focused really on Promethean boards and the integration of the use of Promethean boards. So I think we're coming along and learning a lot more about technology. This comes from our professional development program called KickUp, and it has embedded surveys in that program. And the survey results show high levels of knowledge within Zoom and Google Classroom, Google Suite. But it shows again, well, I didn't include all of those technological tools because the list is very long, but it shows a few of them, Padlet, Flipgrid, and it shows how we have to go deeper in those areas. But you see how the green and at the bottom with Google Classroom and Zoom, how we are reaching at an innovative level as it relates to those programs. So Dr. Harlan is going to focus on these areas and the rest of the presentation. Any questions about the first part?
Yeah, I have one. What's a 2-in-1 device that the math people want?
So a tablet and then also it's like a Chromebook and a tablet with it. It's 2-in-1, like a surface where you can write on it, and then also you can type. So that's what they prefer. Like the Microsoft Surface. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, School Board. It's kind of interesting to consider that this time last year, probably none of us really knew what Zoom was. So I'll report to you on the final 3 focus areas. We will continue to expand support within Tyler SIS. Tyler is one of our core applications. It manages the student information. And when I say focus on support for that, one payoff from doing that this year was in our ability to develop attendance reporting within Tyler to accommodate the extreme changes this year in how attendance in a virtual and brick and mortar district was required to be taken by the state. So I'm very proud of my staff who work with Tyler for their ability to make that accommodate the requirement. And consider too, that the staff managing Tyler is new. Our subject matter expert in that area, Suzanne Jackson, took the place of Sharon Ellis, who retired last year. Sharon was fantastic, and Suzanne is picking up exactly where Sharon left off. We're very fortunate to have her. We'll continue to expand the use of Clever. Clever is a nice little application that bolts onto Tyler. And what that does is it makes it unnecessary for us to write customized programs to extract data from Tyler, extract data to support third-party applications such as Ixl, which you heard about earlier tonight. We roster Ixl. We tell Ixl who the students are and what classrooms they're in. And this allows the teachers at Booter and elsewhere in the district to know and score and report on their students. For us, it's wonderful because it's a real time saver, and we'll expand our use of that. Just as we will expand our virtual server environment. Today we have over 25 virtual servers, and a virtual server functions like a regular hardware machine, but you can have multiple of these servers on one piece of hardware. It saves us a lot of money, and it accommodates all of the demands we have today for a wide variety of things, everything from supporting assessments to running our phone system, our Avaya phone system, the desktop phones that we just installed last year. And I'm pleased to announce that we've finally added the Husky Support Center to our wide area fiber network. And this opens up the door for continued development of that great spacious resource for district use. Very exciting. Opportunities include developing staff competencies in Tyler SIS and Tyler 360. This is where we will help our faculty and office professionals learn more about Tyler and how to manage the records and get more information from it. We'll allow, or we might allow, RHS students to make course requests for optional courses, and this will help with scheduling, saving time. Hardware upgrades to improve our infrastructure. This is something you're familiar with because I tell you the same thing every year, how important it is for our infrastructure to have state-of-the-art equipment so that our reliable network stays reliable and the performance of our district technology stays optimal. And we hope to expand the IT footprint within the Husky Support Center to improve asset management. The great space there will allow us to avoid taking up space in schools where we tuck away technology that we want to recycle, or where we receive new technology before we can process and get it into the classroom. Consider those 3,200 Chromebooks that you've approved us to purchase. When we get those this summer, they will be on roughly, I think around 64 pallets. And we're thinking, where are we going to put those pallets where we can open them up, get the Chromebooks out of the 3,200 boxes and deliver them to classrooms. So when we have the Husky Support Center, if we're able to use that to help us with some of these assets, that will be fantastic. Go on to number 4. Support and competencies in Aristotle K-12. This is our web filter, and it's new. And we're working hard to both modify it for use within the district and help our faculty learn how to use it as a classroom management tool. Hotspots, we have over 600, we have 680 hotspots deployed already. And I'm excited to tell you that we have many more here now through a T-Mobile program called Project 10 Million. And we got 250 hotspots from T-Mobile, no charge, and the possibility of getting many more in August. So that's a wonderful program. And as you know, we've acquired the aforementioned Chromebooks district-wide, and keeping those devices up to date, replacing the old ones with new ones is fantastic development, tremendous progress. And we also I plan to tell you in a little bit about an E-rate possibility to upgrade some of our wireless access points. This a continuation of a program that I brought to your attention in the past 2 years running. So this is the third year of doing that. Opportunities in this resource distribution area include lab upgrades, Project Lead the Way. Our teachers, I'm excited to say our teachers at Hake have discovered that they can satisfy the requirements of Project Lead the Way using Chromebooks. And this means that we might be able to avoid the costly expense of replacing Microsoft desktops in Project Lead the Way labs in middle schools. We also have an opportunity to update the iMac Music Lab in this building. Those machines are getting quite old. And then to continue the district one-to-one past the COVID 2021 school year. And in addition to that, some opportunities exist in the area of asset management. The Chromebooks now that are in circulation one-to-one, number around 6,000, the hotspots, 680. We have far more assets in play now than ever before, and keeping track of them as we do on different platforms, including the Google Admin panel that tells us what Chromebook belongs to what student, and spreadsheets I get from suppliers like CDWG. What we would like to do is have some tools to develop better combinations of data between these sources. So for example, when I am asked by the help desk whether a specific Chromebook is under warranty or not, I can refer them to a spreadsheet or a Google sheet that they can go to for that answer without calling me or emailing me. So we're looking for efficiencies in how we manage and combine information from different sources. Focus area 5. And speaking of the help desk, there's a need to expand the help desk. Today, it remains in this building where it was created to serve the one-to-one in high school. But now, because we are a district-wide one-to-one, we need more space. We need a bigger help desk, more people. Again, that might be something that we would consider someday for the Husky Support Center. And that help desk has here in this building, in the absence of students, been something we have been able to expand. But as students return, we're now having to condense and get out of the way. Well, the one-to-one program district-wide is not going away. So next year, my hope is we can find a better home for the district help desk. We have new remote support available to students and faculty and even families, phone lines, and an email for that support, tech support at Ritenour. And again, we have deployed over 680 hotspots to help families without internet. Back to asset management. With all of these devices in circulation, we're working hard to keep track of them. We also are looking at alternatives to Prometheans and projectors. I have purchased some Promethean panels, which are like Promethean boards, but you don't need a projector, neither a short throw nor one in the ceiling in the classroom. So the panel is a little bit like a TV, only it runs Promethean software. And where I have purchased them, I've put them on rolling stands in the hopes that they can be used and shared within the building. The other advantage of these little panels is they are actually a little smaller than a Promethean board. And then today in Ritenour, we have carved up a lot of classrooms into smaller areas. And in those areas, it's just not enough room for a projector and a full-scale Promethean board, but there's still interest in having that resource. So this is where the Promethean panel has come into play. And then participation, as I mentioned before, in Project 10 Million, an opportunity for us to sustain the provisioning of hotspots to families. This is a wonderful development from T-Mobile. Technology integration recommendations. Ensure continued availability of Chromebooks, sustain the device allocation. You've done that for us in the last month and greatly appreciated. That's going to come in very handy. It's great to get those orders in now. The ETA I have from CDWG and Acer is June. And so we're very hopeful we can get those devices in and deployed before the beginning of next school year. And I think by acting quickly on it, we're in pretty good shape. Provide the appropriate device access at each level. So we did provide to our youngest students tablets this year, and we'll continue to do that. We will collect those tablets at the end of the year and make them available to kindergarten classrooms as requested. But we will also offer Chromebooks to all students. Professional development and instructional coaching will be made available. We will maintain technology infrastructure through annual sustained investment. We will budget for the expansion of software tools and a robust antivirus, very critical, as we've learned. And we will use E-rate whenever possible, but we will make investments outside of E-rate as needed. And those are recommendations. And technology integration summation. Technology integration continues at all levels. Students and teachers seek online learning options and desire more technology, as you've heard from both Deneen and me. And we will continue to develop our technology infrastructure to support the growth in devices. We have opportunities we are addressing with Chromebooks and sustainability of that program, the one-to-one program. Online learning options, including blended formats, E-rate funds for infrastructure, but strategies are also, other strategies are also available. We'll recommend that we ensure continued access to Chromebooks and continued support for technology, both in the classroom and in the server room. And we will budget to continue technology integration and a robust infrastructure. Questions?
Are we still using students to help with the help desk?
Yes, we are. These are these students, when they returned to school in January, we began to actually repair more Chromebooks per week than we had been before. I had 2 or 3 people from my staff who were doing that. And then students from the high school, the number of those contributing was 3, 4, or 5, I think, or more from Christine DeMurray's class. And very helpful to have them there repairing those Chromebooks. And very helpful also to have Christy DeMurray on board helping us out. She's really terrific, very helpful.
They get credit for that?
Yes, they're taking a class from her, and this is part of what they learn. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Fred, looking down at the future, what is the next step and what students want, teachers want, what's coming on the horizon?
On the horizon, as in life after Chromebooks?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Chromebooks, you know, we got our first Chromebooks in 2013 in this district, 35 on a cart. It's pretty cool. What after Chromebooks? I don't know. I think right now, I'm guessing that between Microsoft and Google, they'll still wrestle for that space for a while. And for our purposes, we're so deeply embedded right now in Google Classroom and Google Tools, Google Suite, that I see us on Chromebooks for a few more years at least. And what's next? I don't know, Brad. It's hard to say. Whatever it is, I think is still 3 or 4 years down the road.
You know, the good news is I remember, you know, in this district, Lotus, you know, when Lotus was it, you know, and so we made this shift away from Lotus in 2016 into 2017 and moved to Gmail. And so right at that point, the idea that we were letting go of Lotus was a huge deal for people, you know, because a lot of people weren't familiar with Gmail at all. And now people don't even, you know, I mentioned Lotus, people haven't even thought about it anymore. So
right.
Just the cycle time for new learning, you know, every 3, 4, 5 years, things seem to be shifting significantly. You know, the idea that we still purchase physical servers, the number of physical servers that we're actually purchasing, you know, from time to time, we need to purchase some physical servers, but the idea that we're pushing everything up into the cloud, you know, even 8, 10 years ago, that wasn't even a thought. So it's a good question, Brad. We just have to stay on the cutting edge of it.
I would say that a few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I looked at what we had and what we were managing in-house, including at the time our student information system, which was Ixl, our old financial and HR system, PeopleSoft, and our email, which was Lotus. And I said, I really would like to get all of those core applications hosted where we don't have to worry about upgrading them, managing the operating system, and having the skill set in-house to not only work on network and filtering and Wi-Fi and classroom systems, but also server systems. I thought that was asking the small technology team we employ to do too much and too much uncertainty in those servers. I think we're in much better shape today now that we've migrated to Google Gmail, where all of the archiving of that is under the care of Google, where our student information system is hosted by Tyler, and again, archived by Tyler, upgraded by Tyler, and now our new financial and accounting system is also in the cloud. And I think this allows my team to focus on critical things such as the networking and the server infrastructure that supports learning, such as those virtual machines that run for assessments. So that's what we've done over the past 5 years, 7 years. What we end up doing over the next 5 to 7 years, that evolves. You know, at this point, I don't really have a light that says that's the objective. I think that kind of develops slowly, and I like watching other districts lead the way, actually. So if there are any gotchas out there, they can find them for us, and then we'll follow along safely a step or so behind. just my 2 cents.
I should have a question regarding the capacity for the Chromebooks. You mentioned that the PLCW classes were thinking that the Chromebooks will be able to accommodate. Will
Yes.
they be able to accommodate the software like CAD and Revit, those type of engineering software?
Well, we're moving away from some of that, but apparently at Hake, they are convinced that they can teach the courses with Chromebooks. The only addition they need is a mouse. So they want the Chromebooks and they want a mouse for the students to have. We don't typically have that with our Chromebooks. But yes, probably because the program itself, recognizing the popularity of Chromebooks, is looking to modify their software so they can deliver those lessons on Chromebooks.
And that's the same at the high school with the PLCW classes?
The high school is we upgraded the high school labs about 3 years ago. So they're still running, but it's a smaller lab too, because we observed a decline in enrollment in the engineering part of Project Lead the Way. I think there was more interest in biomedical and one of the other courses, I believe. And so the computer-assisted design software and the other software that required the high-end computing, that there was a reduction in interest and enrollment in those classrooms. So in the past, we had outfitted 2 labs with over 30 desktop computers to support that program in the high school. But 2 years ago, recognizing the decline in enrollment, we started to, we upgraded only 1 lab. Yeah.
Madam President, I'd like to move that we approve.
Wait,
This is an update, right?
that's just an update.
Yeah.
This isn't a,
Oh, sorry.
it's coming.
Okay.
So now, board members, we have Miss Gilliam. So Fred is going to be speaking to, I guess he's speaking to his recommendation now. It looks like Mike's got it pulled up on the screen. We actually, yeah. So Evelyn, we'll have Fred go ahead and go. Mike's got it pulled up on the screen.
Either way,
and then Miss Gilliam is going to be coming up to speak on tech competencies here in just a bit.
I think I'll come back. Okay.
Mike's got it pulled up. Right
Okay.
in front.
All right. So as I mentioned, this is year 3 of a district-wide wireless access point upgrade. And the motivation here is to keep the hardware up to date so that all the systems that relate to it can be kept up to date. Most critically, our wireless controller. We want that to be on a current operating system. To achieve that end, I needed to buy 25 access points. Over the last 2 years, we've replaced over 200. And these 25, once we replace them, will allow us to upgrade our controller this summer. I put out a Form 470 asking for bids, got 8 bids, and went through ranking them following E-rate requirements. One of the bids I had to throw out because they did not follow my instructions. We need Cisco equipment for a variety of reasons. The winner of the bidding process was CX Tech, their bid coming in for $10,600 for 25 access points before the E-rate discount. Applying the E-rate discount of 85% means that the cost of these 25 wireless access points is $1,590. I recommend that pending E-rate approval, we contract with CX Tech to purchase 25 Cisco 2802i access points for our wireless upgrade plan for this summer 21.
Is that for $1,590 per, or is that the total?
That's the total, $1,590. That's after the E-rate discount.
Is our E-rate discount, did I read that? Is that 85%?
85% for, this is category 2. We get a 90% E-rate discount for category 1. That covers our wide area network. Category 2 is hardware. a fixed list of certain types of hardware, most of it networking, wireless access points included. 85% category 2.
That's a heck of a savings part then.
Yes.
Any other questions?
So board members, so E-rate, so you always wonder where those cell phone taxes are on your cell phone bill. That's E-rate. So all of those tax line items really benefits kids. So, over the years, whether it be Mike Wieland or Fred, the students of Ritenour have just benefited greatly from that E-rate program to the tune of millions of dollars.
Now we'll look for the recommendation.
Madam President, I tried to move again to approve the contract with CX Tech to purchase 25 Cisco 2802i access points for our wireless upgrade totaling $1,590 as presented by Dr. Fred Harvey.
Have a motion and a second. Any other questions? We'll call the vote. Mr. Garden? Yes. Dr. Thomas?
Absolutely.
Mr. Lewis? Dr. Alvin?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Yes.
Ms. Glover Jones?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fred.
Thanks, Fred. Yes.
So board members, we kind of had a trio around the technology report tonight. And Ms. Gilliam, thank you for being flexible a bit here. So we presented to you in October on technology competencies. So Ms. Gilliam and the PD committee worked on defining technology competencies that all educators had to be able to demonstrate. And when we presented to you back in October, Ms. Gilliam will speak on the data. The data was not all that favorable, so happy to come back to you tonight to share some different data.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So want to provide an update, as Dr. Kilbride said, on our tech competencies. And again, we're focusing on that investment and in engaging students with their learning and teacher efficacy. And this particular piece focuses on that teacher efficacy. So I want to remind you of what each competency is and then provide a little clarity and a little bit of update. The clarity I want to provide is that looking at this information in the spring, we have it out of 381 educators. You may recall that in the fall, we were talking about 467. And the reason for the difference is that we had some SSD teachers in originally that we, after talking with Dee Burns, I found out that SSD was doing their own piece. And so rather than have them do double work, we pulled all of the SSD teachers off of who was included in our group. It wasn't all of them, but some buildings did and some buildings didn't. So we just pulled every building that had SSD teachers in there, we just pulled those all off. The other thing that happened is that we had some teachers that were out on leave that I was not aware of. And so I went back through and all the teachers who were on leave, we also pulled them out. So between pulling out our teachers on leave and the SSD teachers, this is the total number of teachers that we are working on with these competencies. And so I'm happy to say that with competency one, and Dr. Stewart mentioned this as well, with those management kinds of tools like Google Classroom and Seesaw and those kinds of things, we're at 100%. And then with our second competency in terms of building a classroom environment, making sure that teachers and students are working together to be able to put students at the center and have those parameters around how they will communicate, we are also at 100%. And competency three, this is dealing with building the lessons and making sure that teachers have those building blocks and things. We're also at 100%. The one thing I do want to point out about this one is what we suspected in the fall, which I mentioned, was that a lot of teams had worked together, but they didn't clarify that on their artifacts. And that in fact was true. And so we did have a lot, once we got clarification on who worked on what, that one came up right away. On competency 4, this was related to teachers taking some time to learn either something about a tool itself or a strategy or a way of engaging students. And they had to kind of just read something or learn something, try something, listen to a webinar or podcast or whatever, and then reflect on it. That is also at 100%. Some of the teams did this in their PLCs as a group, and then some people did it individually. And then our 5th criteria, teachers articulating those lessons and then reflecting on the lessons. So they had to write the lessons for competency 3, actually use the lesson in class, and then reflect on it. That was number 5. And so again, some teachers did it through their PLC, some teachers did them individually. I had teachers who sent me videos, some we did through Zoom calls, and we are also at 100%. So for the 5 competencies, we are at 100% for all 5. Now, how did we get there? October, we had a volunteer support session. November through January, we did some reminder emails, sometimes through principals, sometimes directly to teachers, sometimes a combination of both. And then we started gamifying the reporting. So every week with Dr. Kilbride's meeting with the administration, if a team had finished, a building had finished, we would announce it, and then I'd also send them a message, you know, you're team number 5, you're team number 2. So I had some principals who got a little competitive, and they're like, I want that email. So they stepped it up. We also did another targeted session. So once the list whittled down to about 30 teachers, I sent them all a message and said, we're having a Zoom on this day. You know, if you can come. So I had probably, I want to say about 10 or 15 that came through that. And then some people, I just did a cold call through Google Meet, which I learned from Dr. Nobile. I did not realize you could just dial people right through Google Meet. And so I just dialed in right after school for some people, and I was able to catch some teachers that way, and we were able to get those competencies completed. The last piece was through the HR department, and I'm not certain that we had to send a memo to anyone. I know that the memo was written and that the principals were aware of it, but I don't think that anyone received a memo, because by that point we were down to like 2 people, and one of them we discovered had put their stuff in a folder, but it wasn't the right folder. And so that's why I didn't have it. So all in all, once we sort of differentiated how we got to what we needed, you know, and allowed teachers to express how they needed to express their information in a variety of ways, the same thing that we want for our teachers to do with their children, we did with them, and we were able to have them meet that mastery at the level that we wanted. So as far as the data, just wanted to show you that on Otis, we have completed a total of 907 courses this year. Since the last time I shared information with you all in October, we've had 93 more courses completed. And I know that in March, we've had even more completed, and we just don't have the data from Tech, which is the parent body company of Otis yet. And then this is just a breakdown of the building, so you can kind of see, of course, that the high school still has the majority of the teachers who are using Otis as an online learning tool. So one thing I do want to talk about that's not on here, but Dr. Stewart mentioned it a little bit, is that some of those engagement tools like Padlet and Flipgrid and those kinds of things, that's where we're still seeing that we have a layer of, we have teachers who have shown that they know how to use it, but they're not showing that they're using it to affect positive engagement in class. And so I brought that to the CNI team, and then I also took it to the PD committee and just shared the data. And I said, what do you think about this? And so the main thing we noticed was that our management tools are effective and our engagement tools are not as effective. And then when I brought it to the PD committee, we talked about that. And what they shared was that teachers know how to use those tools. They just haven't had time to really implement those tools. And, learning it and then learning to apply it, it's two different things. And I can just speak personally. I had to build what's called a Bitmoji classroom, where you put all these little pictures and links and things all on one page. And I've done something similar to that before, but I had never built one like that. So I thought, let me just build one and see how, what it's like. 8 hours on a Sunday. And I mean 8 for real hours. It took me 8 hours to build one slide with all those links in it. So I'm like, now I really get it. Like, I knew it was going to take a while, but I didn't expect it to take 8 hours. So if a teacher's trying to do that, that's part of the reason why we struggled with getting all of these competencies done in the first semester, because that implementation time is real. All right, so what questions do you have?
When you were talking about how you corrected the number of teachers by taking out SMT and the people only, did that change the percentages for the fall? You left those the same?
I left it the same because they had actually completed, the people who were included in the fall had completed those things up until that point. So with SSD, what we did was we just said, okay, well, if you're doing your own work, you don't have to do any more for us. And that's how we, compared the two.
So then it's like, just on the one side, so it'd be like 23% of 400 whatever, and then the other one would be 100% of 380.
Ms. Gilliam, I'd like to say thank you very much for all the work and everything. I know it was a huge switch, and change can be very difficult on people. And so to go through all this and, for all the teachers and the principals and everything, I appreciate all the hard work that went into it. One question I did have is, we did this for our teachers. What about our substitutes? One of my concerns is next year we'll get more substitutes back, and will they be prepared to be able to do this? So are we going to offer anything to them before they come back?
So the beautiful thing, I have to just say 2 words, Jamie Sims. Jamie this year with our new teachers thought, okay, the subs might need some of this. So some of the subs actually got some of that professional learning at the beginning of the year. We have all of those sessions that we did back in August recorded. So we have them all recorded and housed, so we can provide that professional learning for any substitute who wants it or needs it. We have it available. And then if it's something that we haven't recorded yet, we know much more now. Several of us in the C&I department got the distance and blended learning certification back in January. So there's so much that we know now about what we're doing that we didn't know back then, that yes, absolutely, we can find ways to get the substitutes what they need. And then even with teachers, there have been things with the report, the update things that we learned in that certification that we were like, okay, we're going to try this, or we're going to put this together, we're going to build something. So the short answer is yes. The longer answer is we know so much more now than we did then that we can build a better system.
So do they get, is it the access to these things you recorded? Is that anybody can get to it or what?
Anyone who has a RitenourSchools.org account, I can make it available to them. So that was another thing through Jamie that we discovered, that we had to get those Ritenour Schools accounts for our substitutes. And it's not just public on the web, but it's like within our web.
How would they know that they need that though?
Jamie Sims.
Okay, all right.
So Jamie works
in the handles the substitute?
She's in the HR office.
Okay.
She's amazing. I can't say enough good things about her.
So do you feel comfortable, like I know, a lot of our substitutes are retired teachers, Ritenour teachers and everything. Do you feel that they will feel comfortable coming in now that we have a lot through the technology, and even our kindergartners and first graders are using more technology?
I cannot speak to their level of comfort. What I can speak to is if they need help, we can help them.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, We will move on to 3.02 with our Kratz parking lot. Mr. Smith. Man behind the curtain.
Yeah, right. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, so providing a safe environment for students to learn helps the operations department meet the vision and mission of the district. And facilities should provide the best physical environment for learning to occur. And all district schools should provide consistent and equitable environments. So when Proposition S was passed in 2020, one of the planned projects was to add parking at Kratz Elementary School. This project would add approximately 42 new parking spaces to the school. That would improve safety at the school because currently there's a lot of traffic in front of the school where students are walking. Next year when we're able to have full school full of kids, when they have whole school activities, that people have to park in the neighborhood and walk over to the school. And so this would increase safety at Kratz. There's a diagram of the proposal for adding parking. It's going to go directly next to the existing north parking lot with a connecting loop in the back so people don't have to turn around. We're going to use the existing lights there. We're just going to improve them, make them LED. It's going to require excavation, asphalt curbs, sealing, striping, drainage consideration, and lighting upgrades. So it took it to bid and we had several bidders. Byrne and Jones provided the lowest bid at $82,610. If you remember, Byrne and Jones completed the repair, sealing, and striping of Ritenour High School parking lot back in 2019. When we redid all of the parking lots with repairs, sealing, striping, we also did down near the stadium as well. And they did terrific work. And so I am recommending that the Board of Education approve the bid of $82,610 by Byrne and Jones to perform the work necessary to add an additional parking lot at Kratz Elementary School.
The problem that we have with the Kratz, with the drainage and all that stuff this winter, is that going to be, that any way going to be part of this where they're putting the parking lot related?
Not at all. No, that drainage was directly in front of the school. And what happened was there's a concrete apron around the school that was tilted towards the school. Water was draining into the school, causing damage to the foundation. The new parking lot is, and that problem has been corrected. So that project is finished and it looks great. I hope you drive by and take a look at it. It looks good.
I see it almost every day, but
Oh.
what I'm saying is where the water's going, it's not gonna, it just doesn't flow that direction where the parking lot is? Or it's all underground or?
It's all underground, correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A concern would be that, lighting on the parking lot, the city's got to upgrade the lights, so you got to increase the lumens enough to where the whole parking lot is lit up.
Yes, so on the diagram, the existing lights are in what would now become that median between the two lots. And so right now there are lights that go out in one direction. We're going to increase the lumens and have the lights go out in both directions and use LED. Our architect and engineers, they have done the calculations that would be an effective way to light that lot and not have to run additional electricity out to that lot as well.
Are they currently LED?
No, they're not.
Switched? Oh, yeah, that's good then.
Mhm.
You know, lower the amperage that's used to pull and everything, I just, we have several parking lots that are very poorly lit.
Mhm.
And, you know, we're gonna double size the parking lot, man, I like to see that, you know, lit up fairly well.
Yeah, that was a part of the Prop S package around safety and security upgrades. And so, you know, we look forward to coming to you in the future also with a surveillance camera package as well.
Any other questions?
Recommend we approve the bid of $82,610 by Vernon Jones to perform the work necessary to add additional parking lot at Kratz Elementary School.
A second. I have a motion and a second. I will call vote. Mr. Gardner? Yes. Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis? Dr. Allen?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Yes.
Ms. Glover Jones?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and 3.03, the culinary arts proposal.
I'll just stay right here. All right. So if you had been into the culinary lab, you will know that that is a prime example of all district schools should provide consistent and equitable environments. The existing lab is in dire need of being upgraded. Ritenour High School is going to use the funds from the Perkins grant to add new sinks, stainless steel countertops, ranges, refrigerators, and freezers. And you can see from the picture, a picture of the conditions that that lab was in. Very outdated. However, the Perkins grant can only be used for equipment and it will not cover labor for improvements. Operations budget is covering floor tile, asbestos abatement, and the removal of those outdated cabinets. We do need a contractor to install the sinks, remove that outdated backsplash, replace drywall, paint, and finish the space. We're also going to add a backsplash that is typical of industrial kitchens, and that's where we're going to see that equity for the students. The Culinary Arts Lab, the program has been celebrated by the Board of Education, and then that lab is going to be greatly enhanced by these upgrades. Students involved in the program are going to have a space more in line with industry standards. And students will develop their skills in an environment more conducive to learning. Went to bid and we received 3 bidders, and Wachter provided the lowest bid at $28,800. And as you know, Wachter has completed many projects throughout the district, and we are extremely happy with their work and the work that they do. So I'm recommending that the Board of Education approve the bid of $28,800 by Wachter to perform renovations and upgrades to the Ritenour High School Culinary Arts Lab.
Does that include all the equipment as well?
No, the equipment's going to be handled through the Perkins grant, so that's going to be a separate.
Do we know the total cost of that?
I don't know the total cost for all of that. The high school administration is handling the purchase of the equipment. The operations department is going to handle the installation of that equipment.
In terms of the equipment, are they going to still be using the glass top stoves, or are they going to switch to gas?
We're not switching to gas. That would be to switch over. It's going to be a much added cost. We have to use ranges that are the same size as the current ranges, so we don't have to provide upgrades to the fire suppression system, and that would be a large cost.
Yeah, and venting. So I was just kind
Correct.
of curious.
Correct.
So we're not going to go with a more industrial range, just still be like a residential range?
they'll be improved, but they won't be industrial. So in order to turn it into a completely industrial lab, we'd be looking at a very large project to make that happen. Be fantastic if we could do something like that, but to bring it more in line, you know, this is something that we can do at a relatively low cost, so that students, you know, when they're learning in that environment, if they are choosing to go into the culinary field, they'll be working in places that are similar. You know, they will have some experience working in a similar type of environment.
Do you know how many students are actually involved in this program?
So there are a large number of students involved in FACS classes. So whether it be culinary, baking, and pastries, like the FACS umbrella with all the classes is very large. I can give you the exact number tomorrow, but I know one teacher's full caseload of 6 classes. So there's at minimum 6 classes of baking and pastries and culinary.
Just curious.
Dr. Thomas, in answer to your question, there's 2 purchase orders on the list tonight. It's about $18,500 for the total that is coming out of the purchase grant. That's 100% funded for 6 double oven electric ranges, 4 refrigerators, and 2 freezers.
Thank you.
Can you say what it is again?
I'm sorry?
Can you say what it is again? The double.
Yeah, 6 double oven electric ranges, 4 refrigerators, and 2 freezers. And then they still have to purchase the stainless steel countertops.
And that would be out of what we're approving.
Out of Perkins also.
Oh, okay.
So all the equipment can be purchased out of Perkins. All the labor has to come out of our budget.
Madam President, I recommend that the Board of Education approve the bid of $28,800 by Washington Incorporated to perform renovations and upgrades to Ritenour High School Culinary Arts Lab as presented today.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I'll call the vote. Mr. Garden?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Dr. Alvin?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Yes.
Ms. Glover Jones? Yes. And I'll vote yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Since we have all those cookies and cake classes, I expect to see something. Any plus one.
If they need assistance, we'll come.
We're all over it.
Yep. All right, so now we're going to move on to 3.04 for our personnel recommendations with Dr. LaChance.
Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
I'm here to present personnel items 1 through 37 and can respond to any questions you may have. And I'm asking for your approval.
How many more custodians are we going to hire? How far are we now?
So we need 3 more custodians, specifically looking for Marvin, Wyland, and Hake locations. We're also still looking to add 2 more to the disinfectant team, which is that part-time position.
How many more bus drivers?
We actually have a full bus driving staff, but we are looking to add 2 more sub bus drivers to assist with away games and with just sub needs.
Is number 8 a full-time or a part-time?
Full-time.
Mike, we were talking before the meeting started about people retiring. And you're looking into your crystal ball as well as you can. You foresee a lot of retirees this year?
Well,
I think we're like off cycle or off year.
I think it's difficult to predict. I know that in HR circles, there's conversations of lots of retirees based on just the pandemic. But also at the same time, there are staff members who have told me they were considering it, but now that they see vaccines coming and things are improving, that now they're considering waiting, waiting additional years or plural years. So I do know that traditionally our staff will wait to see if there's any outcomes of discussions that may affect their decision to retire. But I'm also, I feel like that by this time we typically would receive more separations, period. And so I think that given the economy, there's also some unknowns, and potentially people are choosing to stay put. At least that's what it seems to be so far.
It's unique. At this point, the board has only approved 2 retirements, and that's unique. There are retirements.
Kind of waiting for the wave to come in, and it's not there.
Some of the consensus, and it's all conjecture out there, but there is some consensus that believe that people might be staying put this year. We not specific to Ritenour, but throughout the region.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I don't understand number 11. Can you explain it to me?
Number 11 is consistent with board policy GCBDB, which is for long-term leaves. The staff member is requesting a leave to complete their internship hours related to a counseling degree.
Okay.
And wants to do a full immersion internship. So.
And where do they do something like that?
So typically they're going to be assigned to a school setting. And staff members will typically at times choose to stay with us, and they'll work through their internship while, during plan time or during various other evening times, they'll work through those internships. In this case, the staff member chose to, and I will say that the counseling internship is much more involved because they can also get clinical settings as well. So she's choosing to take a request to take the full year so that she can fully immerse herself into that work, and was concerned about being sharing, that workload with a teaching workload.
And will that internship be here or will it be elsewhere?
So that has not been confirmed yet. There may be portions of it that may be here, but also some clinical settings as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? I'd like to make a motion to approve personnel recommendations 1 through 37 as presented.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second. No other questions? I'll call the vote. Mr. Garden?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis? Dr. Alvin?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Yeah.
Ms. Glover Jones?
Yes.
And I will vote yes.
Thank you.
Moving on to 3.05, we have our time for board member comments. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share? Our student representatives, how are you guys doing? I'm doing pretty good. Doing okay?
How's the week going with, coming to school with everybody?
It's been pretty nice. I still want to go to Gabe's, but I love being back. I was close to this week, but my house burned down.
Yeah, we heard. So sorry.
And I'm starting next week, so we're getting it.
Are you doing okay?
Yeah.
Good.
Glad
Glad
you're
you
here with
could
us
make it.
tonight.
Yeah, we should do it.
Okay. Any other?
Yeah, it's surprising, it's amazing, it's just wonderful to hear of all the things going on in our schools still, with the challenges that we have with distance learning and virtual academies and such like that. And we talk about class size a lot, and I think it kind of showed us right here, kindergartners that can write sentences and formulate thoughts like that about the animals and things in the first semester that they're in class, because the class is so small, and it gives that one-on-one thing with the teacher that we so dearly would like to have. And I think as we move forward and come back to the new normal, examples like that we have to keep in the front of our minds, so that when we make these decisions about do we need more personnel or not, I think that was the example right there, that it does make a difference. Those small class sizes where a teacher can spend quality time with those young ones. It might not, or might make a difference in 11th or 12th grade, I don't know, but I know I have an example right here now of a 5 or 6 year old, a full semester ahead of where the teachers thought they would be. And God knows where they're going to be in May. I'd love to have them come back and show me what they're writing then, because it's just going to be incredible. So, you know, I think we have a focus right there for us. You know, thank you to the teachers, thank you to the principals and all the parents that worked with them as well. But I think we kind of got the message tonight.
Yeah. The small classes, we've heard it all last week and we've heard it this week, and I think that has helped a lot of our teachers.
Well, and we, you know, listening to our two very good, very professional middle school principals. You know, we know the elementary school principals, they get together to talk, and they're all over it. But to hear those guys communicating on a daily basis, I could see that. Those guys are like there. They're probably can finish each other's sentences by now and such. And that's the collaboration we're looking for. And when we bring our director online and such, you know, the trio that we're going to have between the three of those is going to be fantastic to watch.
Great.
Anything else?
I think we all got an email today from one of our parents about the mask wearing. I think it's important that we all read that. Some good points were brought out.
Is there any way someone can forward it to me? I don't think I got it. I'll scan it to you. I'll forward it to you.
And just a reminder, we've got spring break coming up in 2 weeks. All right. If nothing else, we will move on to our consent agenda items.
Madam President, I'd like to move that we approve consent agenda items 4.01 through 4.08 as presented to this board this night.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any questions on anything in the consent agenda?
I don't have any questions, but I do think it's something we should think about when we talk about our Husky Academy and reviewing it. I'm curious as to why we separated out, as well as International Welcome Center, when we look at our data for those students. To me, that should be a part of our comprehensive school plan presentations, because those are our students that are at those schools. And so their academic performance, I think, will be also important to be a part of us on that ongoing tracking progress.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
If you look at that report, there's some opportunities,
Absolutely.
significant opportunities in there.
Yep.
Anything else? I'll call the vote. Mr. Garden?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Dr. Alvin?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Yes.
Ms. Glover Jones?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Moving on to 5.01. Just looking for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to reconvene in closed session for state statute 610021 for the purpose of a discussion of personnel agenda items.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I'll call the vote. Mr. Garden?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Dr. Alvin?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Yes.
Ms. Glover Jones?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. We are now in closed session. We'll take a few minutes.
All right.